Shalom, fam. It's your moray, Jaydon Israel. Welcome to Real Talk Tuesday. Live stream is going up on a Tuesday. Hey, what it do? What's good, family? How is everybody feeling out there? Let me know how you are feeling, family. We have a spicy live stream today. Fam, what I'm about to cover today, I got to do it. I got to do it. I got to speak about what just went down. Shalom, shalom to Double T, the Hebrew. That's my brother right there. It's always good to see you, Ak. Shalom, shalom to BR. Shalom, it's good to see you. All praises to our great King. As you can see, the title of today's live stream, Biblical Hebrew is not Yiddish. Response to Pastor Kelly Richardson, We Woke Now, and Berean Scholar. Shalom, shalom to YBG336. That's my brother right there. Right on. Hey, it's all good. It's all good. We are glad to see you. For today, what I'm about to cover, fam, I got to do it. I agree, BR. I agree. However, Pastor Kelly Richardson does not agree with you and I. It's not that simple. I think it's that simple. But according to Pastor Kelly Richardson and Berean Scholar, they do not consider Biblical Hebrew to be real Hebrew. They believe it's Israeli Hebrew. That's what they said. And I'm going to get into that. But before I do, family, feel free to let me know what you think about the topic of tonight. Biblical Hebrew is not Yiddish. Do you agree with me? Do you agree with me and BR? Do you agree, family? Do you disagree? And if you disagree, let us know why. If you agree, let us know why. Let's speak on it. Why? Because this is Real Talk Tuesday. This is not the Shabbat day. I'm not preaching today. This is not the Shabbat word. Shameless plug, which you can check out. Shabbat word, Friday night, 7 o'clock p.m. Pacific time. Join the Shabbat day. Celebrate the Shabbat day with us at 7 o'clock p.m. Pacific time. With that shameless plug out of the way, this is not the Shabbat word. This is not Shabbat service. This is Real Talk Tuesday, where we talk about topics that we can't on the Shabbat. And tonight is one of them. We're going to talk about it today. Oh, we got to talk about it. Yes, we do. Right on, BR. I like that. I like that you're giving some explanation to why you are saying that Biblical Hebrew is not Yiddish. However, Pastor Kelly Richardson of We Woke Now and Berean Scholar would disagree with you, and they would disagree with me. Now, let me go ahead and read that comment. You said I was referring to woke. YBG, you said I was referring to woke. Let me see. Let me go back. That way I understand what you're saying. Oh, okay. Okay, I got you. Yes, yes. We Woke Now is the name of Pastor Kelly Richardson's YouTube channel. Now, before I get into that, let me know how I sound. Do I sound okay? Do I need to turn up the mic? Do I need to turn it down? Let me know, family. Let me know how I sound. And while you do that, let me go ahead and pull up the announcements. The first announcement, I hope y'all caught that, which was in the beginning. That's right. If you missed the beginning intro, I will bring it up again. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the confirmation. Let's get it. Let me go ahead and get to these announcements so we can get started. Awesome. All right, let me go ahead and share my screen. Almost there. Right. Check it. For example, this video that you see on screen and any video of mine, any video, all you got to do is go below in the description. Go below in the description like this. Right there. And make sure you download your favorite 4-letter F word. Free goodies, that is. The Lord's Prayer, Yahushua's Prayer in Hebrew and English. Video tutorial and free PDF download. 30 words in Paleo Hebrew, Biblical Hebrew and English. Video tutorial and free PDF download. The 10 Commandments in Hebrew and English. Video tutorial and free PDF download. The Shema prayer in Hebrew and English. Video and PDF. And the priestly blessing in Hebrew and English. The Benediction. You guessed it. Video and PDF. Now, if you desire to become an ambassador of Yah, you can do so with your apparel. You can represent for the kingdom of Yah with your clothes. You can get this shirt right here, this super cool shirt. You can get it right here. Just click on the link that says Need Hebrew Israelite Apparel. Click on it. And it's going to take you to this apparel brand. I could talk about it, but I'd rather show about it. Let me go ahead and show you, family. The name of the Hebrew apparel brand. Kavod, styled in legacy. Shalom, unlock 20% off your order. I'm going to show you how you can do so in a second. For example, here is a plethora of apparel, from hats, beanies, do-rags, t-shirts, long sleeves, sweaters, hoodies, jackets, sweatpants, sandals, clothing for women, men, and children, clothing for regular days and feast days. There is so much content, so much apparel on this shop. Now, if you want that 20% off, you get it right here in the announcement category. 20% off any item. Use this link and it's 20% off your order. So if you order 2 shirts, a hat, a shirt, let's say you ordered a hat, a shirt, and some sandals. Those 3 items together, you get 20% off your order. Take advantage while it's still there. All right. That's a good question. That's a good question, BR. That is a good question. So the Bible is in German, right? All right. Let me go ahead and continue with the announcements. If you would like to unlock exclusive content that you'll find nowhere on the internet, you can do so by subscribing to the Patreon. You can subscribe and unsubscribe anytime, family. There are different tiers. The higher the tier, the more value. Get exclusive behind the scenes footage. Check out the latest blooper that I posted on the Patreon, family. It's hilarious. Now that joke ain't free. The jokes on this live stream are free, but the joke on that Patreon ain't. And there's so much other goodies on the Patreon, from digital downloads and advanced biblical teachings that are too spicy for the bumbleclots. That's right, I said bumbleclot. I'm not even Jamaican. I'm from the Bay. Yeah, I'm appropriating the word, but it just matches the way these trolls act. So I refer to them as bumbleclots. I'm appropriating that word, even though I'm not from the Caribbean. You can go ahead and leave a tip, a donation, a tithe. Got him. You can leave a donation or a tip on Cash App, PayPal, Buy Me a Coffee, the YouTube Super Chat, We appreciate it, family. We don't need it. I have a job. If not, you already know the deal. My wife would make me get one. She's an Israelite, but she's still black. She'll make me get one.
That's right.
No bums over here. No bums. All right. And check out my videos. Blase, blase. Let me go ahead and show you the name of tonight's live stream. It does have a name, you know. Let me go ahead and pull up the posts. Almost there. Almost got it. Almost got it. Here we go. Real Talk Tuesday. We discuss topics that we can't on the Shabbat. Trending topics, Israelite culture, wealth, health, relationships, interviews, debates, and more. Tuesdays, 5:30 p.m. Pacific time. We are live. That's right. We're live right now. Also, do not keep the Shabbat day alone. You don't got to do that, fam. You don't have to be a loner. Tell me about it. I used to keep the Shabbat day alone. My wife and I, we used to keep it alone. And it's so much better when we keep the Shabbat together. So much better when we keep it together. The Shabbat word. Friday nights, 7 o'clock p.m. Pacific time. Write it down. Take a picture. You know what to do. Let's celebrate our great King together. Saturday. Let's celebrate our great King together. The Shabbat word. Friday nights, 7 o'clock p.m. Pacific time. Hallelujah. Now, what I'm going to do right now, hopefully this works. I played it at the beginning, but I'm going to play it again. What I'm about to show right now is a quick video of the Hebrew courses. That's right. The Hebrew courses are ready. If you desire to learn Hebrew, I got you. I got you, family. I've been waiting for this moment to teach Hebrew. You can enroll in the Hebrew courses today. You can enroll now. Let me go ahead and show this video. Hopefully it works. Now I'm back. There it is, family. Those are the Hebrew courses that I have ready. I recommend getting the bundle. Just get the bundle. You get a discount. You save money. Instead of paying more, just get the bundle and tap in to the language of Hebrew. That's right. Biblical Hebrew. That's right. Biblical Hebrew is not Yiddish. I am so happy. I am so fortunate that I get to teach Hebrew. I get to share this language. Take back your language. That's right. Hebrew is your language. Yah gave us the language of Hebrew. Connect back to your culture, back to your roots, back to your heritage by learning Hebrew. And also learn Hebrew so you can put Christians in check. That's right. You can put them in all kind of submission holds because they can't deal with the Hebrew. The majority of the Bible was written in Hebrew. And if you like to enroll, you can do so by going below this video and clicking on the course. There's three links in there. I suggest family to enroll with the bundle. That way you save money and you get what you need, family. So you can start tapping in to Hebrew. Remember, the majority of the Bible is written in Hebrew. Hopefully you were able to see that video, by the way. Also, let me go ahead and share. Let me go ahead and see if I can get it It's below this video. Just go below this video and you'll find it. I wonder if I can click on my live. It might glitch, so I'm not going to do it. But just go below the video, family. Go below the video and you will find the Hebrew courses. Go ahead and check that out. Now, let me go ahead and put the title on screen. Biblical Hebrew is not Yiddish. Response. So We Woke Now and Berean Scholar. Before we get started, I have to say that tonight's interview with Jacolia from Jacolia Gems has been postponed. I'm sorry, family. I know that I sent out some notifications in regards to the interview tonight. The interview tonight is not going to happen. I apologize, family. And I just wanted to go ahead and make that clear. I apologize because I did. That was the original game plan for tonight, was to have the interview. But tonight it's not going to happen, family. Now, let me go ahead and get started. First off, I got to say this. I have so much respect for Pastor Kelly Richardson. Even though I do not agree with his position that biblical Hebrew is Israeli, that it's Yiddish, that it's not the real thing. Let me tell you something. I respect my elders. I respect Pastor Kelly Richardson. I appreciate the amount of work that he does for the kingdom of Yah. In fact, Pastor Kelly Richardson inspired me to go to Savannah, Georgia. That's right, Savannah, Georgia, where you can find the first African Baptist church. And that church, the first African Baptist church of Savannah, Georgia, is the first black church in North America. I remember watching the documentary from Hebrew Nation Building. You can find it on Tubi. It's called Reclaiming the Throne. And inside that documentary, Pastor Kelly Richardson is giving exclusives. He's showing exclusive footage of Savannah, Georgia. He's showing exclusive footage of the first African Baptist Church of Savannah, Georgia. He inspired me. He inspired my wife and I to go to the first African Baptist Church of Savannah, Georgia. In fact, I took a photo. I took plenty of photos. But what I like to say is that one of the photos that was taken from that visit, I actually sent him that photo. I let him know that I was thankful. That I was thankful for him for inspiring me to go make the visit. So I gave him his credit. I gave him his flowers. And we got to do that, family. We have to give credit where it's due. We got to give flowers. So I still, even at this moment, even though I do not agree with his position on biblical Hebrew, I still respect Pastor Kelly Richardson. Now, I also like to mention, I sent him one of the photos that was taken. My wife, she took a great photo of me standing right next to the Hebrew that is found in the church of Savannah, Georgia. Matter of fact, let me go ahead and show you what I'm talking about. That way y'all don't think I'm jazzing. I'm not going to show the photo, but I can show where you can watch the vlog, because my wife and I, we recorded our trip. So go ahead and check it out when you have the time. But I have to start off by doing the right thing and giving credit where it's due. You can go to playlists, go to my life and vlogs, and let me show you. Bam, right there. The second video. Savannah, Georgia vlog. First African Baptist Church. Hebrew. Proof Black Americans are Israelites. So one of the photos that was taken from that trip, I emailed that photo to Pastor Kelly. And I attempted to have an interview with Pastor Kelly Richardson. I invited him on this platform. I wanted to have him come on the platform so that he can share his story and so that we can give him his flowers. Basically, he said, to sum it up, what he said, he didn't respond back, which I appreciated. He responded back. He let me know at a later time. So he said at a later time, respond back to him. So when that time came, I responded to him not once, but twice. But after that, he hasn't responded to me since. Now, with that out of the way, I like to speak about Berean Scholar. I met Berean Scholar last Shabbat day. Berean Scholar came on the panel. He joined us on the Shabbat service that we had last Shabbat. He got on the panel and he gave a testimony during our testimony segment. And when I spoke to Berean Scholar, it was good energy. I got good energy from him. He gave a good testimony. He actually gave me props on the Hebrew that I was breaking down. And also, as the service closed, when I read the priestly blessing, he also commented on the priestly blessing, on the Hebrew that I read. Also, he invited me to come on his live stream. He invited me to listen, to join the live stream the next day, which was last Sunday. He invited all of us. Last Shabbat day, when he was on the panel, when he gave his testimony, he invited all of us to check out his live stream the very next day, which was last Sunday. Absolutely, BR. I'm going to play it. Absolutely. But I want to give context first. I just don't want to go ahead and just not give no context. I got to give credit where it's due. So Pastor Kelly Richardson, I got to give him his credit. And in this community, the so-called awakening, I meant to say the fakening, we're so quick to tear each other down and not give any credit. So before I just go ahead and just give my critique, I like to first give credit where it's due. So I was invited. To come on the live stream, not to come on the panel, but to join the live stream. And that's what I did. I joined the live stream. And when I joined the live stream, they were making false claims about biblical Hebrew. Let me go ahead and pull up the video. Give me a second, family. I'm pulling it up off screen. All right. YBG, you said credit for spreading lies. Not everything that Pastor Kelly Richardson was a lie. Hey, we have to be about honor and respect. We got to remember, Pastor Kelly Richardson, well, we got to respect our elders. Same with Berean Scholar. Even though I do not agree with him, I'm not going to disrespect him. We serve the Almighty Yehovah Sabaoth. All right, fam. So this is a live stream that I'm speaking about right here. I was invited by Berean Scholar, who is on the top of the screen, on the top left hand. He invited all of us when he joined us last Shabbat afternoon service. He gave his testimony. He gave good energy. He gave respect. And he invited us on this live stream. This happened the day after, which was on Sunday, last Sunday.
Intentionally. Correct, Pastor?
Absolutely.
And what we want to talk about that now.
Can you guys hear that? Can you hear the audio? If you can hear the audio, press 1 so I can proceed. Also, on the bottom left is Pastor Kelly Richardson. We Woke Now. That's the name of his channel. We Woke Now. I agree, BR. I agree. I agree. I agree. One, okay, let's proceed.
On this next piece, Pastor, anytime you want to interject, please do, because we want to break down, because I really believe that the attempt, like last night we were talking about some of those who are forming crafty counsels against us from coming back to our remembering who we are, who taking our place right now.
And do you want me to give clarity on the Jesus versus Joshua?
Yes.
That's in the video.
Yes.
So real quick, family, the reason.
Let me go ahead and go off screen. Let me just fast forward a little bit, family. That way we get right to the point. Almost there, family. This is good right here. Let's go.
English of today, that is because to keep the distinction between the actual Hebrews and the Roman Catholic Christian Church. So Joshua is actually the proper name that should be there based off of the original Hebrew text. Jesus again represents and encapsulates, so to speak, that agenda to keep uh, the Roman Catholic Church, Christian Church, separated from the ancient Hebrews. And so when we deal with languages, and this is key, many would teach, far as scholars would teach, and they started this in the 18th century, to push this notion that Aramaic was the language of the ancient Israelites, which it wasn't. And the whole purpose was that's more easily accepted because they don't want to have any connection with the ancient Israelites, because when you start unpacking that, then you start seeing who's who. Then you start going deeper and getting back to the actual root of what the language really is, versus going down the Aramaic branch, if you so to speak, of the Hebrew trunk of languages or tree of languages.
And this the actual beginning of what we know, like when you look in the Strong's Concordance, most the first thing you'll see is the modern day Hebrew, which we know, which
Did you hear that, family? Here we go. Let me go ahead and rewind it back a little bit more. This is where they start getting into making the claim that biblical Hebrew is false. Listen carefully.
and
With acceptable, and the whole purpose was that's more easily accepted because they don't want to have any connection with the ancient Israelites, because when you start unpacking that, then you start seeing who's who. Then you start going deeper and getting back to the actual root of what the language really is, versus going down the Aramaic branch, if you so to speak, of the Hebrew trunk of languages or tree of languages.
and this the actual beginning of what we know, like when you look in the Strong's Concordance, most the first thing you'll see is the modern day Hebrew.
That's incorrect. That's incorrect. That's incorrect. In the Bible, you don't see modern Hebrew. You see biblical Hebrew. There is a difference between modern Hebrew and biblical Hebrew. They should never be conflated. So what I'm getting so far is that they're making the connection that the biblical Hebrew that we see is rooted in Aramaic. And also that Berean Scholar said that it's modern Hebrew, which is incorrect, respectfully.
Which we know, which what we call the Yiddish Hebrew, and some in most say, okay, that's the original
The
Hebrew
what?
language.
The what?
And,
what you say?
some in most say, okay, that's the original Hebrew language, which we know, which what we call the Yiddish Hebrew.
Say what now? I missed that.
Which we know, which what we call the Yiddish Hebrew. Which we know, which what we call the Yiddish Hebrew. And some in most say, okay, that's the original Hebrew language. But expound on that, Pastor.
Repeat that again. I didn't catch it.
When most people go to the Strong's Concordance to look up the things in the scripture, the first thing it pops up is the modern day Hebrew.
Absolutely. And one of the things.
Absolutely not. That's wrong. Modern day Hebrew is not the Hebrew in the Bible. That's biblical Hebrew. The Hebrew that's in the Bible is biblical Hebrew, not modern Hebrew. Let's continue.
That you'll notice, which is key, because I know this can be, how can I put it, to many, it would sound like it's way out in left field.
And I disagree with you, BR. I disagree with you. Biblical Hebrew is not modern Hebrew. The Hebrew that we see in the Masoretic text is not modern Hebrew. And I'm going to show why it's not. But we can agree to disagree, BR. We don't have to agree. But I disagree.
When you hear me say this, that ancient Hebrew only had one vowel associated with all the consonants, and that was the ah. It did not have all the vowel movements.
That's incorrect. That can't be substantiated. That's incorrect. Let me go ahead and repeat that.
And that one vowel associated with only had one, sound like it's way out in left field. When you hear me say this, that ancient Hebrew only had one vowel.
He said ancient Hebrew only has one vowel. That's what he's saying. And BR, you're saying the new Aramaic block letters do appear. You're speaking about the scripts. The scripts. Yes, in the Masoretic text, you see the Aramaic square scripts. However, the language is not Aramaic. The language is Hebrew. Also keep this in mind. The pictographic Hebrew, the Proto-Sinaitic Hebrew, the script is not originally Hebrew. Some of those letters that are in the Proto-Sinaitic Hebrew, the AKA pictographic Hebrew, are found on the walls of Kemet, AKA Egypt. He's conflating the script with the language. You got to remember, our ancestors were in captivity in Babylon. Our ancestors were familiar with the language of Aramaic, for Aramaic was the common language of the day, and it was the language of our ancestors' oppressors. However, they're speaking about the script. They should refer to the biblical Hebrew as the Aramaic square script, but not the language. And also keep in mind that pictographic Hebrew, before Paleo Hebrew existed, us Brews, we love the Paleo Hebrew, but before the Paleo Hebrew existed, we knew the pictographic Hebrew, which we got some of those letters from Egypt. The script, we got the script partially from Egypt, but the language is Hebrew. Let's not conflate the two. Let's continue.
Associated with all the consonants, and that was the ah. It did not have all the vowel movements. So when I say vowel movements, or should I say diminution, that is when they started stretching out the letter, start modifying the letter. So when you look at, for example, A, E, I, O, U, that is actually give you an idea of the very first vowel and how the changes of them start. When I say them, starting with the Greeks, start interpolating.
Conjecture.
The language by inserting vowel letters and making the language more easier for them to pronounce, right? So when we start getting into that and start understanding the whole agenda, when we start dealing with the languages, again, it was only an ah associated with the consonants, right? So there was no silent letters, right? There's 2 silent letters when you study it from the Israeli language, and that's what I'm going to call it, because scholars actually, that is actually many linguists, especially when you date back to like the 70s and 80s, they refer to it as the Israeli language, right? They have the what they call the Aleph, which in ancient Hebrew would be the Alap, and the Ayan in the Israeli is the Ayin.
Conjecture, conjecture, conjecture.
Those 2 letters are silent. And those are key letters. The very first letter, numerical value is 1, and it's going to point you to the Father, right? You change that letter, you change the responsibility of a husband, you change the responsibility of a wife.
Now they're conflating. That's conflation. Conflation and conjecture. Those are some strong and aggressive inferences.
The responsibility of a father, you change the responsibilities of a mother, because the name of the father is Abba. That's the first name that you'll learn in Hebrew.
That's incorrect. The word for father in Hebrew is Av. Av, not Abba. Abba is Aramaic. Abba is Aramaic. And it's fascinating that you're saying that biblical Hebrew is Israeli, it's modern Hebrew, it's Aramaic. However, at the same time, you are saying that the word for father is Abba, which is not Hebrew, it's Aramaic. Av is father in Hebrew. Abba is Aramaic. Let me repeat that for those in the nosebleeds. Av is father in Hebrew. Abba is father in Aramaic.
The mother is Amma. So changing those
Wrong again. Aim. Mother in Hebrew is aim. Aim. Mother in Hebrew is aim. Why? Because with that belt, mama don't miss. I'll be here all day.
making those subtle changes, then you began to dictate other changes as far as words, right? And you'll see that when you study the Greeks.
I'll repeat that if you guys didn't hear me. Mother in Hebrew is aim. Aim. Why? Because with that belt, mama don't miss. Now, BR, technically, you are right. Aleph, Bates. But it's pronounced Av. 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 Respectfully, the pronunciation for father is Av, not Ab.
We'll touch on it when we get there. They started making additional subtle changes on key words. But going back to the point, when you study the strong concordance, now, one thing I love about the Most High, he always, no matter what the enemy try to do, gives us breadcrumbs.
Yes.
So when you go to the Strongs, right, for the most part, any word that have originally generated or created from the ancient Hebrew, you will see that there's no vowel points. There's no other vowels associated with it outside of the ah. Like for example, Moshe, right? That's the name, and the Israeli tell you that it's the name of Moses. But when you go to the Strongs, the Hebrew Strongs, uh, it'll tell you, right, that that's the name, but then it'll have another number there, and when you go to that number and you see the word that it comes from, you'll see what it says primitive root, right? Ancient Hebrew did not have all of these marks.
Now, to be fair, he is partially right. He is partially right. Originally, Hebrew did not have the vowel points. That is true. Originally, when you go far back enough, you will see that Hebrew did not have vowel pointings, aka the nekudot, the nekudot, the nekudot, the vowel pointings. It did not have them. He is speaking about the root word of Moshe, and it is Moshe. Moshe is correct. He is talking about the root because Moshe is a proper noun. The proper noun Moshe comes from the roots. That is what he's saying. Most Hebrew words come from verbs because Hebrew is all about that action. And most Hebrew words come from a 3-letter root. He's talking about the root word of Moses. So he is partially right. However, he is conflating when he says they changed it. He is saying they. It sounds like he's referring to they as those of the J community, the Ish community. That's what it sounds like. He's conflating they with the Ish community. But those who created the vowel points were not of the Ish community. They were the Masoretes, the Masoretes, the Masoretes, the Masoretes, however you pronounce that. I think it's Masoretes. I'm going to go with that. Good enough for Ghetto, good enough for Jaydon. The Masoretes are the ones who pinned down, they pinned down the vowel points. But he's conflating the Masoretes with the Ish community, which is wrong.
So Masha, Moshe, all of that would have still been the Mayam, right? And
Masha, Masha, Masha. Y'all remember that, Brady Bunch? Marsha, Marsha, Marsha. It's not Masha. It's not Masha. Masha, Masha, Masha. It's Moshe. He's wrong again.
all of that would have still been the Mayam, right? And the Shan. So when you see that,
No, it's the Mem and the Shin. And Moshe has a Hey as well. Mem, Shin, Hey. Not Masha.
you'll get it, you'll still see some glimpse of the original language and the strong concordance when you go to the primitive roots of the words there. Now, in many cases, you'll see Aramaic or you'll see them say unknown, but for the most part, the ancient Hebrew, you'll see the primitive root, and that's the original, right? And I want to make sure we understand because when we see primitive from a Eurocentric perspective, many would say take primitive as being an insult. Primitive simply means the original, right? And so now, what I will say this is, someone asked a question. And mind if I answer this question real quick?
Go for it. I think I see the same question.
The issue with La Shawan Quadash, and I'm going to make it clear.
The issue that now they're addressing me because I thought they were talking about Lashawan Kodash. I thought that they were saying ancient Hebrew is Lashawan Kodash. That is what I thought they were saying because they said that the original Hebrew, it only had the ah vowel sound. Where, to be honest, Lashawan Kodash has the ah sound, but it also has the I sound. For example, Yahweh Shai. Shalom, shalom to Brent James. Salam, 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 King. It's great to see you. That's my brother right there. That's my Ak right there. All praises.
Clear. I don't call it La Shawan Quadash. Actually, the primitive root word is La Shan.
Okay, so you heard it. He said he doesn't call it Lashawan Kodash, he calls it Lashan. Either way, he is saying that the original ancient Hebrew, according to him, only had the ah vowel. And he's saying that they created the vowel pointings, the nekudot. He's talking about they. When he says they, he's referring to the Ish community, and he is wrong. The Masoretes created the nekudot. They pinned down the nekudot. They didn't just create it out of the blue. They pinned it down because they were already aware of it. They pinned it down because it already existed. Those different vowel sounds that you find in the biblical Hebrew already existed. They just pinned it down.
Not Lashawan Quada, not Lashawan. It's Lashan. Now, I call it the language of Judah because when you go to Nehemiah chapter 13, Nehemiah recorded that the children no longer spoke Judah's language. So I don't use the Lashawan Quadash because that's what many have used to try to argue against. Now, when we start getting into proper nouns and verbs, we have to now take away our modern construct or understanding how to approach the text. It's still the same. You know, when you look at the verbs, when you look at the plurals and the masculine plurals, the feminine plurals, nothing changes. Because when you understand ancient Hebrew and you approach it from that lens, not from the Eurocentric lens, then you start getting proper clarity. Because another thing that they would say, well, how do you make a distinction from certain words?
Facts. Big facts. How would you make a difference between a noun, an adjective, and a verb, and a preposition? How would you know the difference if every vowel sound is an ah? Not only would it cause confusion, it will cause a delay if all of the Hebrew letters made the all sound. He is absolutely correct when he's saying that. We can't have a proper conversation if all of the words, all of the letters sound with all.
You know, like how do you make a distinction if you have I'll go back to Masha, right? Far as how do you determine Masha from Moshe in ancient Hebrew when it was pronounced the same way? Well, how do you make the distinction?
How would you? How would you?
When it was
That's a great point. That's a great point, Pastor. Say it again.
pronounced to determine Masha from Moshe in ancient Hebrew when it was pronounced the same way. Well, how do you make the distinction? Is context is everything. Now, if I told you that I'm going out to sea, right, versus I cannot see, you're going to be able to distinguish SEA versus SEE based upon what? Context.
So, according to Pastor Kelly Richardson, the way how you would make a difference is context. Because he's saying, and this is right, the word Masha, according to him, it can be different words. So how do we know if we're talking about a verb, an adjective, a noun, a preposition? He's saying context. That is his best explanation. But what I'm saying is that if that is the case, the amount of time for us to try to figure out what each one is saying would take forever. So if you said something to me in Hebrew, and if you said Masha, I have to try to figure out whether you are referring to a noun, a proper noun, a verb, or an adjective. So I have to try to guess what it is Masha means. Masha as in an adjective, Masha as in a verb, Masha as in a noun. Context will cause confusion. His answer, context, is how we would figure it out. If all the letters of the ancient Hebrew alphabet, the Lashon Kodash, if all of the letters had the long ah sound, and we were trying to figure it out, what each word is with context, it will cause a huge delay. We would not be able to have a conversation that is back and forth. I would say something, it will take you 5 minutes to try to figure out what it is I'm saying. If you say something back to me, it'll take me another 5 minutes to figure out what it is that you're saying. And if I say something back to you, you're going to take another 5 minutes to figure it out what the hell I am saying. Context don't cut it. Respectfully, I'm just being passionate. Let's just use common sense. Let's actually try to reenact this position. If we all spoke Hebrew that had the letter ah, it would take us forever to have a conversation. Forever. If my wife said I love you, it would take me like 5 minutes to figure out what it is she said. And I don't want to get slaps. I don't want to take that long. But if she's only using ancient Hebrew, if we're only using ancient Hebrew and every sound is an ah, it would cause a large delay. Masha as in what? Context don't cut it. Context causes confusion and a delay. Let's continue.
If I say that, I went out to the Dead Sea, and they have these reeds, or the sea of reeds, REED, right? But then I say I love to read, you know what I mean? Context is everything. So if I say I love to read, I'm referring to READ versus REED. The distinction. If I say I want to get me 2 pieces of fish, I'm referring to TWO. But if I say that piece of fish is too big, you know what I mean? That I'm referring to TOO. You see where I'm going at with that? So,
and notice that he's using English examples to explain Hebrew. I'm just saying. Notice he's not showing and proving that. He's just saying that. That's his explanation. He's trying his best. And for those who speak Lashon Kodash or Lashon Kodash, respectfully, you have to try your best. Because every single letter makes the ah sound. And the longer the sentence is, the longer the delay, and the longer the confusion. If you were going to try to speak Lashon Kodash, Lashon Kodash, your sentences better be short. I'm talking 3-word sentences, 2-word sentences, 3-word sentences. They got to be short and to the point. And knowing the way how I like to run my mouth, I don't like to speak like that. I don't like to utter in 1 word, 2 words, 3-word sentences. I'm going to have to give a 1-word sentence. We could not have an elaborate conversation with ancient Hebrew. It's not practical. It's not practical. I repeat, big screen. It's not practical.
it doesn't change. Context is everything when it comes to understanding languages, when it comes to understanding word selections and what words are used in the proper sentences. So context is everything.
Now, Pastor, at any time you want to pull up any slides or any video, because I know you had some from previous teaching, do so. I'm going to start this video, but this is something that you could add to and start while we're talking. Okay.
Okay.
Powerful and necessary question, Acha. One that exposes.
And just to lead up, this is because what we're talking about. I went in and asked this question in chat. Okay, how did this start? Where the Messianic texts were corrupted, and and why was it done so? And this is what chat said.
The global religious deception hidden in plain sight. If we accept the scholarly consensus that the Masoretic text, MT, is a later and often theologically altered version of the Hebrew scriptures, then why do nearly all major Bible translations still use it as their base text? Let's break it down historically, theologically, and...
Can everybody hear?
Yep.
Okay, good. And if anytime you want to interject, let me know.
You have the right to your opinion, BR, but what I'm saying is that it's not practical. If every consonant made an ah sound, we couldn't have a real conversation. The conversation that I'm having right now with you, fam, I couldn't do it. You would be trying to figure out what I'm saying, because multiple words will have the ah sound, and like Hebrew is different than English. It's completely different. Hebrew, one word could mean multiple words. I repeat, one word in Hebrew could mean multiple words. So context does not work. It's not practical. Your sentences better be 2-word sentences. They better be short.
Politically. Why do most modern Bible translations use the Masoretic text? 1. Masoretic text became the default Jewish canon after 100 CE. After the destruction of the Second Temple in 70 CE, Rabbinic Judaism emerged as the central religious authority. Around 90 to 100 CE, the Council of Yavna, Jamnia, unofficially standardized the Hebrew canon, rejecting the Septuagint, LXX, and favoring their own version, the Proto-Masoretic text. This text was later refined by the Masoretes between the 6th to 10th centuries AD in Tiberias, with vowel points added, grammatical corrections made, and ideological glosses imposed.
That is mostly correct. Mostly correct. However, the Masoretes are not the Ish community. And I say this out of all respect because I got respect for everybody. I respect and I got love for all communities, all people. So this ain't no weirdness over here. I'm an Israelite brother that's about peace, unity, and love. However, the Masoretic text, it is a later text. It came after the Septuagint. Keep in mind, the Septuagint was written in Greek. It was translated from Hebrew into Greek. It is older than the Masoretic text. However, the Masoretic text, even with its issues, because it does have issues, it still holds up. And even with the Septuagint and its issues, it still holds up. The Septuagint has issues as well. They both do. Remember, Septuagint is written in Greek. Anytime you translate a language into another language, you're going to lose some of its flavor. You're going to lose some of its meaning. You're going to lose some of its spice. And you know, I hate that because I love me some spicy food. It better be spicy. It better be very hot, extremely hot. If not, I ain't going to mess with it. So the Masoretic text, yes, it came later. It says between the 6th and 10th century AD. Even though it came later, it still holds up. Even with its issues, it still holds up. And the same could be said with the Septuagint. It's written in Greek. It's written in another language. However, it is older and it does have advantages. It does have advantages. So I will give credit where it's due. It does have advantages. However, the Septuagint has mistakes in it too. They both do.
Open quote, by the time of the Middle Ages, the Masoretic text was seen as the Jewish Bible. and Christian translators accepted it as the Hebrew original without questioning its post-exilic edits.
In the video that they're using, the author is deciding to use words like ish. That's what they're saying. We know in our community, we do not refer to ourselves as that. However, that's the words that they choose. But it sounds like they are conflating the Masoretes with the ish community. And what I'm saying, that's a fact. I'm going to prove why that's wrong. About language. Language is important. How are we going to get things done in life? How are we going to communicate with each other if we do not know how to speak? The language. Language is key. Language is important. I really encourage everybody to learn another language. If you only learn English, start your journey and learn Hebrew. How? By going below the video and enrolling in my Hebrew courses. Go ahead and enroll now so you can tap in to your language that was taken from you. Let's take it back, and so that we can understand what the Bible is saying. And also debunk Christians at it. We can debunk Christians while we're at it as well. Let's continue.
And that's the point. They accepted it as the original without questioning.
And I want to share screen too, and I want to give more clarity with the Masoretic text.
And BR, feel free to prove it. You said it's possible. You said it's possible to have a coherent conversation with just ah sound. Prove it. I like for you to prove it. And I don't want to hear 1 word, 2 word, 3 word sentences. I want to hear elaborate conversations. The conversations that we have in English. I want to hear the same thing. And I don't want to hear a delay. I don't want to see a delay. I don't want to see confusion. I want you to use context only. I want you to use context only. I want you to use context only. Like Pastor Kelly Richardson said, to understand the words that are coming out of my mouth. Okay. Just give it edutainment, okay? Just that's an edutainment. I'm a goofball, as you can tell. I'm just trying to make you laugh, family. Don't get offended. Don't take my humor personally. Just laugh with me or at me.
Go ahead.
And I'm going to show you guys 2 points here because I know a lot of brothers and sisters within this awakening, they gravitate to what they call the what they believe is biblical Hebrew, which is not.
What we believe, what they believe is biblical Hebrew, but it's not. That's what he just said. If you missed it, I'm going to rewind it again. That's what he just said. He's saying that the Hebrew that I read, the Hebrew that Damona, Israel reads, ain't real biblical Hebrew. Hey, I love the honesty, though. I love the honesty, BR. Hey, I love it. I love it. I love it. I'm just saying, though, the kind of conversation that I'm having right now, can you have it with the ah sound only? There better not be no delay. There better not be no confusion. You can only use context. You can't look at the King James Version. You can't look into a Strong's. You can't look into a ish Hebrew Bible to try to understand ancient Hebrew. You have to use context and only use the ah sound. You can't do it. You're going to have to resort back to the King James. You're going to have to resort back to biblical Hebrew, which is real Hebrew, which is Afro-Asiatic. That's right. Biblical Hebrew is African. Best believe it. Let's go. Let's continue with the lies.
When they call it Hebrew, which is not, I'm going to prove to you with sources that what you hear today is not valid, right? Let me just start off with the Masoretic text. All right. Let me just give you this source here. And family, you guys know how I do. I love to source up. I'm not one of those that just blot things out without giving you actual sources. So let's go to this source here, the Theosophical Glossary, Helena.
I know I see my brother in the chat right there. What's good? What's good with the Carius Eason? Shalom, shalom to you, King. That's right. And you hear me say it. Shalom, shalom, shalom. I ain't changing it. Why? Because shalom is correct. Hey, Decarius, as much, I have a lot of respect for Pastor Kelly Richardson. However, I had to do it tonight. I had to address this topic tonight. I was invited on this live stream. That's right. I didn't just show up as a troll. I'm in the chat. By the way, Berean Scholar to the top, he's paying attention to me in the chat. Why? Because I'm in the chat giving questions that they are avoiding. They avoided my questions on purpose. Berean Scholar, he knew I was in the chat and he knew that I was there. Why? Because he invited me. Berean Scholar joined us. He joined us on Saturday afternoon Shabbat service. He gave a nice testimony, a good testimony. He also invited me and everybody to come onto his live stream the next day, which brings us to this live stream. This live stream took place last Sunday. He invited us. So I came to the invite and I posed questions in the chat and they avoided my questions in the chat. But let's continue. Let's hear these sources.
Petrovna, excuse me if I butcher her name, Petrovna Blavatsky, 1892, page 208. Now let's see what she says about the Masoretic points. Now this is important. Look at what it says, right? As our system is now called Masora or Mosore or Masorith tradition, right? But let me go down to this portion right here. The rabbins who busied themselves with the Masorah, hence called Masoretes, were also the inventors of the Masoretic points, which are supposed to give the vowelless words of the scriptures their true pronunciations, right? Pronunciation, singular, by the addition of points representing vowels to consonants. This was the invention of the learned and cunning rabbins. These are key words, right? Cunning, right? Rabbins of the school of Tiberius in the 9th century of our era, who by doing so.
This is already wrong. Wrong. The Masoretes started pinning down the Hebrew with vowel points, the vowel pointings, aka the nekudot, the nekud. They started pinning them down in the 7th century. According to them, they said the 6th century, the 6th, 7th century. So it had already been pinned down before this, but it says right here, 9th century of our era. So this is wrong already. And they showed another source before this that said the Masoretes started pinning down the vowel pointings between the 6th and the 10th century. How does that line up with the 9th century of our era? It doesn't. Conflation, conjecture.
Had put an entirely new construction on the chief words. So make a note of that where it says chief words, because we're dealing with key words. In some of the sources I share with you, you're going to see key words or chief words. What are some of the chief words? The Father's name, the Son's name, Israel's name. Matter of fact, even the names of the Israelites, IAH, which should be YAH, right? So those are strategically done. So chief words, you can also say keywords. So it goes on to say names in the books, right? Let me go ahead and continue here. Names in the books of Moses, it made thereby confusion still more confounded. The truth is that this scheme has only added additional blinds. So what is this saying here? It's saying that, look, we all trying to get to understanding, the proper understanding of the law and the prophets, which again is referred.
By the way, family, please like the video, like, share, subscribe, all the good stuff. We appreciate it. It helps the ministry. If you are in the chat, family, if you're listening online, just go ahead and hit that like button. We appreciate it.
Today as the Old Testament. They didn't call that back during the time of the Messiah. But the first 5 books, which is the books of law, or you'll see the word Pentateuch, right? The first 5 books. So when you see this here, it tells you that, all right, we're already trying to get clarity on how to actually read and get our understanding of the text. But by them adding this nakud or naquad, which means branded letters and points, it further confuses the overall process. All right. So
no, it doesn't confuse. It gives clarity. The nekudot, the nakud, or the naquad, or whatever he said, gives clarity to reading Hebrew, not confusion. What did he say? He said confusion. What did he say? Let me rewind it back.
The overall letters and points, it further confuses the overall process.
No, it doesn't confuse. It gives clarity. The nekudot, which are the vowel pointings that you see near the Hebrew letters, they are like training wheels for reading Hebrew. They're helpers. They are like training wheels for reading Hebrew.
All right. So, but look at what else it says here. I think I took it out. Let me go back here. Yeah. So I read the whole thing. I thought I missed something on this, but so I want to make sure you guys understand. They're making it clear that the Masoretic points, right, it's flawed. But I want to share with you before I get into this other source. I'm going to skip down to this other source here before I go into the proof of interpolations. But let me go to another source here. Let's see here if my mouse will allow me to. All right. I'm trying to get to another point. All right, let me see if I can skip down. Excuse me for having to fast forward. It won't let me go to the main.
And family, I'm asking questions in the chat while this is going on. I'm asking questions. Some of the people in the chat attempted to answer some of the questions, but they could not answer those heavy blows of questions I was hitting the chat with. And I wasn't being a troll. I was just asking questions. I was bringing objectivity, bringing another perspective.
Skip down quickly to where I want to get to, but let me get to here.
Sure.
And if for some reason down here, you see how it should show.
Yeah.
It's not letting me list all my PowerPoint slides and skip down. So let me go to this here, and I could always go back up. All right.
You said what questions? Unfortunately, this live stream took down the chat replay, but it's okay because I saved a copy. I screen recorded the chat. So I will bring up those questions that they're not reading, those questions that they're not reading or addressing, those questions that they took down for the live replay. I'm going to play it.
All right, let me see here. This is the point that I want to share with you. I'm going through my.
Shalom to Ema, Marcia, Hamilton. Shalom, shalom. It is great to see you, Ima Marcia. Ima Marcia, her name in Hebrew is Ima Maria. That's right, Maria. All praises to our great King. I hope all is tov. I hope all is tov with you, Marcia. I'm hoping that you're feeling better. I'm hoping all things are tov.
Full presentation and touche with the keyboard in the chair. You notice how I was trying to skip over what you just said, right?
It is people, these.
Did he call me keyboard in the chair? Did you catch that keyboard in the chair? Or am I listening too closely? Let's see. What did they say? Well, hold on. Before I rewind back, I gotta say, shalom to Ima Bithia. Shalom to Ima Bithia. It is great to see you, Ima. Thank you for joining us tonight. Always coming through, showing love to the ministry. We've been so blessed. We are so blessed by the edification and the love and the support that you show this ministry. All praises to our great King. And Ima Bithia is a witness. For on top of the screen, Berean Scholar, he invited us to join this live stream. He invited us to join this live. So guess what? I joined the live. I was in the chat. The panel was not open. They didn't open up the panel, but I was in the chat. If they would have opened up the panel, I would have came on the panel, but it wasn't open. But I was invited. I wasn't some troll. I wasn't just some bum o'clock coming out of nowhere, because I know how that is. As a content creator, I know how it is to swat away bum o'clocks and kick them to the curb. But I wasn't coming with that energy. I was coming with respect and with honesty and with objectivity. I had questions. There were serious questions. Why? Because language is important. We're speaking about language. This is an important topic. Calling biblical Hebrew, saying that it's not real, saying that it's Yiddish, saying that it's modern Hebrew, saying that the ish made it up, those are fallacies. Straight up fallacies.
These
Full presentation and touche with the keyboard in the chair. You notice how I was trying to skip over what you just said, right?
It is people, these presentations are online and available for those of you who want to learn some of this. So these are available for free that you can learn.
I was invited. This keyboard and chair was invited. And Berean Scholar, he knew I was in there. He knows who I am. Notice he hasn't addressed me so far. Notice he didn't say, Shalom, Jaydon Israel. Thank you for taking the invite. Thank you for coming on the chat. He didn't say none of that. Up until this point, he pretended like I didn't exist. He did not acknowledge me, but yet invited me. What I know, I'm just a keyboard in a chair. I'm just these people. I was referred to as these people. Let's go back.
For those of you who want these presentations are online.
I'm going to skip over what you just said, right?
It is people, these presentations are online and
For what you just said, right?
it is people, these presentations are online and
Okay, maybe he didn't say people. I think maybe he said these. I'm not sure what he said. I'm not sure. I'll take part of that back. I'll take, if wherever I got wrong, any mistakes be of my own. How's that? I just had questions.
available for those of you who want to learn some of this. So these are available for free that you can learn.
All right. So 2 points. Let me clear up 2 points that I pointed out, and let's start here. Ancient Hebrew Phonology, Cornell University by Gary A. Rensburg. Now I want you guys to pay attention to what he says here. And this is going to fully expose the flaws in the Masoretic points.
And this is the problem, BR. You say they prefer the Lashawan over the Masoretic. What the problem? The problem is they are saying the biblical Hebrew is flawed. That's the problem. If they were objective, it wouldn't be a problem. If it was objective, I wouldn't even be making this response. Not only do they prefer, not Lashawan, you're actually incorrect. They don't prefer to say Lashawan correct, Lashawan Kodash. They don't prefer to say Lashawan. They say Lashan. According to Pastor Kelly, it's Lashan, not Lashawan. Even though they prefer Lashan, aka Lashawan Kodash, whatever you want to call it, it's important because they are saying that biblical Hebrew is flawed. Not only are they saying that biblical Hebrew is flawed, they're saying biblical Hebrew is Yiddish, it's modern Hebrew, it's of the Ish community. I have big problem with that. I am going to defend the truth when it comes to a topic so important. This is important. Family, we are talking about language. Lashawan Kodash, Lashan Kodash, you cannot properly communicate with those, with whatever, what do you want to call them? Are they language? What is it? What is it? Vowel, what you want to call it? A vowel system? You cannot properly communicate. We can't have extensive, long conversations that are without delay and confusion by only speaking Lashan, aka Lashawan Kodash. Big problem. How are we going to get things done? How are we going to properly communicate? How are we going to make the world go round when we can't communicate?
Now look at what it says here. Page 79. The question remains as to how accurately the reading tradition of the biblical text and the Masoretic transcription thereof reflects ancient Hebrew. That is to say, the Masoretic text, that is the traditional text of the Bible, dates to, as you see here, 850, right, CE, and reflects the manner in which the biblical Hebrew was pronounced at that time. What does it say? It says at what? That time. This is not saying ancient Hebrew of the Messiah, the Hebrew of the Israelites, or even go the Hebrew that Moses wrote, because every theologian, I mean, not every theologian, every linguist, Near East linguist will tell you that Moses wouldn't even be able to understand this Hebrew, this so-called Hebrew of today. Look at what this says here. But how traditional and example, how ancient was the reading tradition of the readers of the centuries before 850? All right. In other words, does the Masoretic text reflects Hebrew as it was pronounced 500 years earlier, 1,000 years earlier, or even 1,500 years earlier? In some cases, we can answer this question, but no definitive conclusion can be reached. Nevertheless, we will base ourselves on what? Assumptions.
Mhm.
See, what many don't understand, they had this 500-year rule. So they assumed that in 850, right, that whatever Hebrew that they were so-called Hebrew that they were speaking at that time, they put a 500-year rule on it to make the assumption that this is what they were speaking based on this 500-year rule, the 3rd century to the 4th century. That doesn't take you back to the time of the Messiah. So
That is true. The Masoretic Hebrew, the Masoretic was penned after the time of the Messiah. However, what they're saying is a fallacy. The Masoretes, they preserved the vowel sounds. They preserved the vowel sounds because they were familiar with how Hebrew was spoken. The only difference, they pinned it down. They pinned down those vowel pointings. That way we can know how it's pronounced. But to say that it is a lie and that they made it up, that's a fallacy. This article is a fallacy. This article has not proven that the Masoretes made up out of the blue biblical Hebrew. They are assuming that. And when you assume, you make an ass out of you and me. And that is what this article has done, that they choose to use. And Masoretic Hebrew predates 850 CE, by the way. Even with the gap from the time of Yahushua HaMashiach to the Masoretes were familiar with already an existing spoken language. They were already familiar with it because they were already speaking it. The only difference, they pinned down the nekudot. There's nothing to see here. Nothing to see here.
This is making it clear. So for anyone that try to tell you that what this so-called dots and all this other stuff is accurate or it brings simplicity, it doesn't. Actually, it adds confusion. Come on, guys.
No, it doesn't add confusion. It adds clarity. It adds clarity. The dots, the vowel pointings, the nekudot are like training wheels for the Hebrew reader. This is another lie. Why am I saying this? Because I read the nekudot. I read the biblical Hebrew. So what he's saying, I clearly know he is lying. The nekudot help you. They're helpers. They're on your side. It's not some evil invention. It's not an evil invention created by the you-know-who. No, it's not. The Masoretic Hebrew with the nekudot, the vowel pointings, the dots, already existed before the Ish community converted to Judaism. They were familiar with the way Hebrew was spoken during that time, and they pinned down the points. That's the difference. But to say that it's flawed, to say that it's Ish, to say that it's modern Hebrew, to say that it's Yiddish, those are F words, fallacies. We can have different opinions. We can have different conclusions. But when you teach your opinion as absolute fact, that's where I have a problem. You don't necessarily have to agree with biblical Hebrew, but to say that it's trash, to say that it's flawed, to say that it's Yiddish, to say that it's Ish, to say that it's modern Hebrew, you're out of pocket. Respectfully.
How many of you guys, like myself, learned this Israeli language thinking that you was learning Hebrew and you were confused by it? It caused a lot of confusion. My question was, well, why are you putting these dots there? Because if you place these dots there, then you're not.
The dots help you to pronounce the vowels. I repeat, the dots help you pronounce the vowels. There is nothing to see here. This is not some evil, wicked invention by the you-know-who. The dots are training wheels. Training wheels. Yes, training wheels. Why am I yelling? I don't know. Let's continue. More to the tomfoolery.
Why are you putting these dots there? It caused a lot of confusion. My question was, well,
No,
why
it doesn't.
are you putting these dots there? Because if you place these dots there, then you're not actually pronouncing the letters. You're actually pronouncing the mark of man.
You are pronouncing the consonants and you're pronouncing the vowels. Guess what? Pastor Kelly is wrong again. You do pronounce the consonants and the vowels because that's what I do. That's how I was taught. And that's how I'm going to teach you, family. When you learn biblical Hebrew the right way, all you got to do is go below the video, click on the course. I recommend the bundle. You get to save money and enroll now. That way you can learn biblical Hebrew the right way. Shalom, shalom to Uyayim, ex-Tav. Shalom. It's good to see you, King. What do you mean they didn't know how to bathe themselves? What do you mean by that, King? Are you saying, who's the they are you referring to? Are you saying that they wrote? Who's the they? And are you saying that they wrote the biblical Hebrew? I like some clarity because I'm not going to assume. I'm not going to do what Pastor Kelly Richardson and Berean Scholar have done throughout this whole video. Make assumptions. I'm not going to do what the sources that they choose to use have done, which was make assumptions. I prefer to be objective. We can agree to disagree, but to shoot down biblical Hebrew definitively and say that it's flawed, we have a problem. Clearly, you don't know what you're talking about.
So
No.
just so far, just real quick, just so far, family, I'm showing you here, even this professor is making it clear that these are based off of assumptions, right? Assumptions. And I didn't put the full source here because he goes on to say, one of the themes you hear is that the key is it doesn't take away from the meaning of the text. What say you? You know what I mean? Who's the one that says that it don't? Go ahead, my brother. I didn't want to cut you off.
I was going to ask you because, because when I was studying in preparing for my ministry, and I dabbled in Hebrew, and I wanted you to go ahead and share a little bit how you got to this point, where you found all these sources.
Well,
Berean Scholar, I encourage you to continue in your dabbling. All you got to do is go below the video and enroll in the biblical Hebrew courses and learn Hebrew the right way.
You're going to understand where I'm get this, where I'm going at with this, just like some of those that are watching, right? Taking my Hebrew classes, guess what? They really didn't answer a lot of questions, right?
Okay, let me go ahead and read this source that they got on screen, if you want to call it that. 3, the literary as spoken language myth. Yet, closer scrutiny challenges this perception. The victorious Hebrew may, after all, be partly Yiddish at heart. That's what they said. In other words, Yiddish survives beneath Israeli phonetics, phonology, syntax, lexis, and even morphology. Although traditional and institutional linguists have been reluctant to admit it. Here's the problem. Modern Hebrew is not biblical Hebrew. The biblical Hebrew that you can find in the Masoretic text on Bible Hub, on Blue Letter Bible, is not modern Hebrew. It's not Israeli Hebrew. It's biblical Hebrew. The Masoretes pinned down the vowel pointings. The Masoretes are not the Ish community. Let's not conflate the two. Let's not make the mistake and conflate the two like Pastor Kelly and Berean Scholar have done. I will say this to you, Uyayam. The biblical Hebrew was not created. It was not written. It was not pinned down by Europeans. That's what they want you to think. No, it was. No, it wasn't. That is wrong. The biblical Hebrew that you find on Bible Hub and Blue Letter Bible is African.
A relative of mine said shalom to me.
You take your Hebrew classes where you take your classes at?
Hebrew University. Right? So
Oh, you don't got to go to Hebrew University. You can learn biblical Hebrew by going below the video. It's my honor and my privilege to teach biblical Hebrew, which is not modern Hebrew. It's not European Hebrew. It's not Yiddish. It's biblical Hebrew. Enroll now before it's too late. Limited time.
By oh, you made me lose my cousin. He made a point. Well, actually, he greeted me by saying shalom, and I greeted him in Korean, right? Because when he said shalom, I was like, "Kamsa hamnida adashi," and my cousin said, "What did you say?" I said, "I greeted you in Hebrew. I mean, in Korean." He said, "Why did you do that?" I said, "Because you sound like you speak in Korean." You know, and so he said, "No." I said, he said, "I'm speaking Hebrew, the true ancient Hebrew." I said, I said, "You sure?" He said, "Yes." So he sent me a link, and I went to that link, and I'm like, the link was very suspect. It didn't give any information. It was very generic, right? And I'm a researcher, right? So what I did was I began to research what he pointed out, and actually while I was taking those classes, I asked a question about that, and I got an off the record answer, right? That they point to some other areas. So what I decided to do is, I know that the Ivy League schools are founded by the 1948ers. So guess what I did? I decided to sit in some lectures, because if you sit in some lectures, they'll give you a student ID card. You know what I mean? And with that student ID card, I get access to their library. So
Yeah.
some of the sources that you find at the Ivy League libraries that I have found, I couldn't find it at a regular school library, university library. And that's a fact, family. So that's how I was coming across this information. Matter of fact, this one right here that I'm about to share with you guys, when they were really going into the language as far as the Israeli language, I was like, wow, that is pretty interesting. About this is where I learned about not calling what they call Hebrew or this modern stuff or whatever. They said it should be called Israeli language.
And the term Israeli, I remember I found that when I was looking up when I found the original text, the tetragrammaton.
Now, I'd like to make clarity. Modern Hebrew is spoken in Israel. Modern Hebrew is spoken in Israel. However, modern Hebrew is not biblical Hebrew. They're two different systems of language. They're different. They're not the same. Let's not conflate the two. They are conflating the two. They are saying that modern Hebrew is biblical Hebrew, and that is a fallacy. But let me know what you think. You don't have to agree with me. You don't have to agree with, however you see it, family. I'm curious to hear your opinion, because unlike them, I'm not going to block you because you disagree with me. I'm not going to block you because you are not agreeing with the lecture. I got blocked in this live stream. I got blocked for asking questions. I was not trolling. Family, you know me. You know me. You know I don't troll. You know it ain't my style. I was invited to this live stream by Berean Scholar. He knew that I am tapped in to biblical Hebrew. Why? Because the day before this live stream, he was on our live stream where we were having Shabbat daytime service. In fact, he joined the Shabbat daytime service. Double T is a witness. I got a witness from Double T. Double T, agree. Let me know. Say Kane or Khan if you agree. You're a witness that Berean Scholar invited us to join his live stream, to tune into his live stream. Because Berean Scholar, he was the one who gave the testimony before you gave your testimony. And Double T the Hebrew, you gave a powerful testimony last Shabbat service. And before your testimony, that's right, we got a con, we got a witness. We were invited. I wasn't some troll coming out of the blue trying to mess up things. I was invited by Berean Scholar to join this platform. So I did. I joined it. I was in the chat and I was asking questions. Yes, sir, King. Right on, right on. See, we got a witness. Imabithia is a witness as well. We were invited and I came with respect. I was respectful. I'm going to show you my conversation in the chat because they took down their live replay. I don't know why. I don't know why. Big screen. I don't know why they took down the live chat replay. Why did they take it down? Berean Scholar, why did you take it down? My questions were too much for you? You didn't have no answers for me? All I had was answers. I brought respect, diplomacy, and honesty. Why'd you take down? Why did you take down? Why did you take down the live chat? Why did I have to screen record it? And I was being careful. I was thinking ahead of time. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and screen record the chat because they might not post it. They might not post it because they didn't have no questions. They have no answers for my questions. But they took down the live replay in the chat. Very interesting. Back to the tomfoolery.
In the Jewish encyclopedia, even referred to him as Israeli, not Israelite. Not Israelite. The Jewish encyclopedia even referred to him in the original text, the Tetragrammaton in the Jewish encyclopedia even referred to him as Israeli, not Israelite.
Absolutely. So that's referring to those that may have been born in the territory, but they're not indigenous to it. And that's all it means. So peep this out, family. And I'm just going to read some of this and I'll share with you the Ethiopian language, Ge'ez. It's really should be called Ga'az, which comes from the Sabine and Saba'an and the Nabatan Shemitic groups, right? But look at what this says here. It says the literary as spoken language myth, yet closer scrutiny challenges this perception. This victorious Hebrew may, after all, be partly Yiddish at heart. In other words, Yiddish survives beneath Israeli phonetics, phonology, syntax, lexis, and even morphology. Although traditional and institutional linguists have been reluctant to admit it, and I encourage you guys to look up Benjamin Freeman, Facts Are Facts, because he goes in and he exposes this as well. All right. Let me go back here. I didn't go all the way back. Yeah, here it is. Let me go back a little bit. That was at the tail end of it. Look at what he says here. All right. Let me go to the beginning of my notes here, or from the bullets of this article. For more than 1,700 years thereafter, Hebrew was comatose, either a sleeping beauty, walking dead. It served as a literary language, and occasionally as a lingua franca for Jews of the diaspora, but not as a mother tongue. The formation of Israeli, the name I use for the so-called modern Hebrew, you see what he says here, right? He says Israeli. I didn't make this up, because I know when I use certain terms, people run with it, but I'm not saying that as a form of insult. I'm saying exactly as I just proven here, right? It says here, the formation of Israeli, the name I use for so-called modern Hebrew, was facilitated and at the end of the 19th century by Eliezer ben Yehuda, school teachers, and others to further what? The Zionist cause. So this entire language that you see that they created is to further the Zionist cause, because I taught this for 3 years. You could confirm this with Genesis 10. What constitutes a nation? Land, family, and tongues. That is heritage. So they understood that they need 3 great pillars to call themselves a nation. So they want to create their own so-called Hebrew.
See, the problem here is that they're conflating modern Hebrew with biblical Hebrew. I know I sound like a parrot. If I do, that's good. That's intentional. I want to drive home that point. They are using sources that speak against modern Hebrew. What that got to do with biblical Hebrew? What does modern Hebrew got to do with biblical Hebrew? Nathan, modern Hebrew, aka Israeli Hebrew, whatever you want to call it, ain't got nothing to do with biblical Hebrew. And when I say ain't got nothing to do, what I'm trying to say is that they did not create biblical Hebrew. That is what I'm saying. Biblical Hebrew that is found on Bible Hub, Blue Letter Bible, was not created by them. It was created by us. Respectfully. Through Yah. It was given to us by Yah. But it was not created by that community. So them showing sources that speak against modern Hebrew, it does not help their argument. They attempted to conflate modern Hebrew with biblical Hebrew. Let's not do that. Let's just keep it 100. If you don't agree with biblical Hebrew, hey, you don't got to agree with it. But don't say that it's flawed. And don't use sources that have nothing to do with proving your argument.
Own language that's for them. But it was based off of what? Yiddish. So it goes on to say here, and it was based off the Zionist cause. Early during the Haskalah, in other words, Enlightenment period, of the 1770s to 1880s, such writers as Mendele, Makar, Safarim produced works, and neologism, excuse me if I butcher it, which eventually contributed to Israeli. However, it was not until the beginning of the 20th century that the language was first spoken, as a result of distinctive characteristics such as the lack of a continuous chain of native speakers from Hebrew to Israeli. Israeli presents the linguist with a unique laboratory in which to test a wider set of theoretical problems concerning language genesis and evolution. Indeed, the genetic classification of Israeli has preoccupied linguists. From the beginning of the 20th century, the still prevalent traditional view suggests that Israeli is Semitic. Look at what it says here. In other words, Hebrew revived. Educators, scholars, politicians have contributed to this assumption. So you see what they're saying here, saying these educators, these politicians, all of these guys contributed to the confusion, to pushing a lie, this lie of what we call the so-called modern Hebrew, which is still connected to what they call biblical Hebrew, which both of them are flawed.
You just heard him throw up. You just heard him regurgitate. Maybe I went a little too far on that. But you heard it again.
Goes on to what they call biblical Hebrew, which both of them are flawed. It goes on to say here, in their efforts to impose a nationalist narrative, it goes connected to what they call biblical Hebrew, modern Hebrew, which is of what we call the so-called modern Hebrew, which is still connected to what they call biblical Hebrew, which both of them are flawed.
Biblical Hebrew is not flawed. Biblical Hebrew does not come from Yiddish. Biblical Hebrew does not come from modern Hebrew. They're different. Stop conflating the two. He's conflating the two. He's conflating modern Hebrew with biblical Hebrew. They're not the same. He's using a source that speaks against modern Hebrew. This source ain't got nothing to do with biblical Hebrew. Stop conflating.
It goes on to say here, in their efforts to impose a nationalist narrative on linguistic reality, revisionists counter that it is actually Indo-European. In other words, Yiddish relexified, that is Yiddish with Hebrew vocabulary, right? My own hypothesis is that Israeli is a hybrid language, both Semitic and Indo-European. I argue that both Hebrew and Yiddish act equally as its primary contributors, accompanied by a plethora of other contributors such as Polish, Russian, German, Judeo-Spanish, in other words, aka Ladino, Arabic, English. Thus, the term Israeli is far more appropriate than Israeli Hebrew, let alone modern Hebrew or Hebrew to count or to court. All right. So he makes it clear that this language it's not even a real language.
Fam, notice in these sources, no mention of the term biblical Hebrew. You hear the term modern Hebrew. You hear the term Yiddish, but you don't hear the term biblical Hebrew. These sources do not help them. These sources further confuse us. And that's why I'm making this response, to give clarity. He's using sources that go against modern Hebrew. What that got to do with biblical Hebrew?
And he says all these professors, all these politicians, everyone is in on the delusion. And it says here, although traditional and institutional linguists have been reluctant to admit it.
Right. That goes on what churches said that although it wasn't proven, they just accepted it.
You see what I mean? Because if they said something, what is the go-to for them? Oh, you're being anti-Semitic.
Right. Oh, whoa. Can I interject one right here for you?
Go ahead.
Because this is coming from their own mouth, and you keep your screen because I'll come back to it. This is something coming from, this one.
Team. Jesus was the manager, and all the gospels were all stars. And this crazy idea that Christianity as a religion was made up by priests and stuff in exile because they got messed up in the head. But really, Christianity is a baseball team. I'm going to get a stadium, and I'm going to print, make uniforms, pinstripes that says Christians over it. I'm going to get them bats and balls to play so they can play in the Major League of Nations. And I'm going to convince them that if you really want to be a good Christian, learn how to play ball. Forget about this religious stuff. Learn how to play ball. That's what the Zionists did. Except instead of a baseball team, they went to try to convince the Jews that the Jewish people are a nation, like France and like Spain. We'll get a land. That's Israel. That's our stadium.
Land.
We'll get baseball bats and balls. We'll create a language. They sat down to create a language because nations need languages.
Again.
Because nations need languages. And we will try to convince the Jewish language because nations.
I'm not convinced. You're talking about modern Hebrew. You're talking about modern Hebrew, not biblical Hebrew. Modern Hebrew is not biblical Hebrew. This does not help you. This confuses us.
Need languages.
They sat down to create a language.
And you know, I run that in the hole, right?
You see, you played it. I went and found it. I've been to verify. That's why I call it this Berean, because I went and studied myself. Okay, where you get that from? Let me go back to those sources and find that out myself. Yeah, and I listened to the whole thing. They sat down and created the language.
And they admitted, you know, and let me answer this question. I see someone by the name of Jaydon Israel who asked.
About time, family. They finally address your moray.
The question. Let me answer this question. I see someone by the name of Jaydon Israel.
And I find it fascinating that he did not mention the fact that I reached out to Pastor Kelly Richardson. I thanked him for inspiring me to visit the First African Baptist Church of Savannah, Georgia. I sent him an email and I showed him a photo that was taken from that church. And I had set up an interview for him. And he responded back. And it seemed like we was going to get some things in motion. It seemed like we was going to set up an interview. He said, get back to me at a later time. So I did. I got back to him twice and no reply. I don't know why, no reply. I don't know. Maybe he forgot that we were going to set up an interview, that we were trying to set up something. And I'm just being fair and objective. Maybe he forgot. Maybe he forgot who I was. But I just want to give some context. I spoke to Pastor Kelly Richardson, and I spoke to him offline through email. And this was a few months ago. This was back in May and June, around that time, May and June, around that time, family. But let's go. They finally addressed me because I was asking a lot of questions in the chat and I wasn't getting answers.
Who asked a question about biblical Hebrew is African.
Did you hear Berean Scholar? He says he knows Jaydon. He knows Jaydon. But catch it. Notice that he didn't address the fact that he invited me to this live stream. I was invited and I made time to join this live stream. So guess what? At his request, I joined the live stream. For him to address me like that. Oh, I know Jaydon Israel. Yeah, I invited Brother Jaydon Israel to come on. Oh, yes, it's good to see you, Jaydon. Shalom or shalom or shalom or however you say it. Peace. I didn't get a peace. Hi. Shalom, 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 salam, salami. No, we don't do salami. Not no more. I used to back in the day. I didn't get none of that. What I got instead? Oh, I know Jaydon Israel. You invited me to this live stream. You joined our Shabbat service the day before. You got on the panel. You gave a nice testimony, a good testimony. And you heard me read biblical Hebrew. And from my opinion, it triggered you. It triggered you to invite me to this live stream. You knew you had this live stream planned out. And you knew that I like to get into the biblical Hebrew. So for you to pretend like I'm just some, I don't know Jaydon Israel. I just thought this was a little interesting. You didn't have to do me like that. You didn't have to do me like that, fam. I'm just saying, no. I'm just saying, just because we disagree, things are not tov. No, I know Jaydon Israel. You heard me read biblical Hebrew and you got triggered.
Right? Who asked the question? let me answer this question. I see someone by the name of Jaydon Israel who asked a
Yeah, I know
question
Jaydon.
about biblical Hebrew is African, right? And let me give clarity, because when we deal with biblical Hebrew, they're still using the phonology of Yiddish mixed with sprinkles of
Wrong. Wrong. Let me continue. Let's let him get it. Let's let him get it out. Biblical Hebrew is not using Yiddish. Biblical Hebrew is not Yiddish. Biblical Hebrew existed before Yiddish.
Hebrew analogy of Yiddish with biblical Hebrew, they're still using. And let me give clarity, because when we deal with biblical Hebrew, they're still using the phonology of Yiddish mixed with sprinkles of Hebrew and other languages with it. Have you thought about, like I did? It's like, man, when I'm pronouncing the letters Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Va, Zion, Chet, Tet, Yod, Kaf, Lamed, Mem, Nu, Zion, Ayin, Pei, Sade, Kuf, Resh, Shin, Sin, Tav. When you start getting into that, it's like, wait a minute, it sounds like I'm dealing with German, right? It has like a German accent to the.
I thought I'm dealing with German. Just because something kind of sounds like it is, doesn't mean it is. Just because something kind of looks alike, just because something kind of sounds alike, doesn't mean they're the same thing. Biblical Hebrew is not German. Gutturals such as chet existed before German. Let's continue.
Letters, right? And that didn't sit well with me, right? And so when we get to the basis of what ancient Hebrew is, and that's why I have this on your screen about Ethiopia, right? Because many will talk about Ethiopia. We know Ethiopia, Kush, right, is one of the places that many, even Western Christianity, really don't like to talk about, right? Because it's so much history, right? So when we look at that so-called fertile crest, which they call the Levant, which is actually Northeast Africa, that entire area sits on the Africa tectonic plate. It's not a separate place. They created the Suez Canal with the goal of trying to separate that from Africa,
Correct.
right? So when we look at biblical Hebrew as
Israel is in Africa. It's on the tectonic plate of Africa. It's in bounds. If Israel was a wide receiver, it got 2 feet in.
the true biblical Hebrew, I'm going to give you an example with what's on your screen that's going to prove what you think is I'm not going to say just you, what we have thought was biblical Hebrew was actually part of their invention of creating a language. So they created a language, they honed in on the Syriac block letters, because the Syriac block letters is not the ancient letters of the ancient Hebrews.
It's the script. Yes, the Aramaic square script is what he's referring to. Yes, we are aware of that. But conflating script with language is a fallacy. I'll give you an example. I mentioned this earlier. Before the Paleo Hebrew existed, our ancestors were speaking, they were writing the proto-Sinaitic, the pictographic Hebrew. And some of those letters came from the walls of Egypt, Kemet, the land of the black. That's right. So yes, pictographic Hebrew, proto-Sinaitic Hebrew, some of the script comes from Egypt. But does it make it Medunetta? Does it make it in the Egyptian tongue? I'm asking. Just because biblical Hebrew uses Aramaic square script, does that mean that biblical Hebrew is Aramaic? No. Wrong. Modern question. English and Spanish use the same letters. Are they the same language? I repeat, English and Spanish use the same scripts. However, my question to you, are they the same language? No. He's conflating scripts with language. Don't do that.
Moses didn't use the Syrian block letters, right? When you start dealing with the Syrian.
No, Moses did not, because they were not in captivity by the Assyrians and the Babylonians. They were in captivity in Egypt. That's why they were using the Proto-Sinaitic Hebrew, the pictographs, to show proof that our ancestors were there. That's right, the pictographs, the pictographic Hebrew. Some of that script comes from Egypt, but that does not mean that Proto-Sinaitic is Egyptian language. Let's not conflate the two. Israel did not live in a vacuum. Israel did not live just by themselves, surrounded by nobody. They picked up things from other nations surrounding them, especially nations that oppressed them, that conquered them, that oppressed them. So it's not strange. It's not taboo. It's not evil for our ancestors to pick up the script of Aramaic, to pick up the script of Egypt. It's just proof that we were there. However, the language still remains Hebrew. The language is still Hebrew. Aramaic is a different language. Yes, they got the same scripts, but it's a different language. Just like English and Spanish use the same scripts, but they're different language.
That's where you get Aramaic from. Truth be told, that's where you get Arabic from. So when we go to the ancient Hebrew, we have to ask ourselves the question, what is the proper pronunciation? Now I'm going to show you, because 2 or 3 witnesses, I take the biblical principle. If I say something, I have to give you 2 sources.
They got to hold up. They just can't be any sources. They have to be real sources. They have to be legit sources, not just any old source, not just a source that has nothing to do with your argument or your claim. Those sources that he used were going against modern Hebrew, not biblical Hebrew. But he's conflating the two.
To be able to what? Prove that point. So here's a source. A language, really is 2 languages, right? I'm going to prove to you that it did not have any vowel points. It did not have any E sounds, O sounds, or U sounds. And matter of fact, in many of the linguists, or those that teach this so-called modern Hebrew, which is Israeli language, they will even tell you that the colon vav, which makes the O sound, originally made an A sound according to the Masoretic points. So the Masoretes did not record an O sound. That was added after the Masoretic points. So when you say shalom, you're not pronouncing it correctly. When you say Elohim, you're not pronouncing it correctly. That is, they weren't even.
Fallacy, conjecture, inference, no proof, just assertions.
Pronouncing that back in the time of the Masoretic, when the Masoretes created this in the 850 AD. Right? But anyway, let me show you this point right here.
No, it was before that. It was before 850 AD. That's wrong. The Masoretes were pinning down the biblical Hebrew with the vowel pointings, the nekudot, before 850 CE. That's wrong.
All right. Let me show you this point right here.
I was probably on mute. I'm going to go ahead and repeat that again. That's wrong. The Masoretes were pinning down the vowel pointings, the biblical Hebrew, before 850 CE. Just giving clarity. That is wrong. The Masoretes pinned down the vowel pointings before 850 CE. Let's
Look at what it says here. This is the language got eyes, which is called ge'ez or ge'ez. Before the 4th century. Now, remember when I shared with you, my brother, the source, and I said that they normally have like a 500-year rule, right? So if we're talking 850 to 900 AD, you subtract 500 years, that's going to place you back to what? 350 to 400, right? Between the right at the the 4th century, right? Turn of the 5th century. Look at what this says here. Before the 4th century, and this is coming from EthiopianHistory.com. Before the 4th century, ge'ez or ga'az had not made use for vowels, but the usage of vowels was incorporated into ge'ez or ge'ez or ga'az when the Ashkemites converted to what? Christianity, which occurs sometime in the 4th century. Pankhurst suggests that the reason that the alphabet was modified at the time could have been due to the wish to make what? Biblical texts more intelligible to newly illiterate. So that was the approach from the Greeks, even when they conquered Israel. They felt like Israel's language was too primitive for them. It sounded like baby language because ba, ga, da, ha, wa, za, ta. Doesn't that sound like a baby language?
once again, conjecture. He's inferring that. He has not proven that. He's just making that claim and running with it like it's absolute truth, like it's definitive. That's the problem that I'm having with these two. They're making their argument, their claim that they say that biblical Hebrew is flawed. They're saying that's their approach is that it is flawed and that ancient Hebrew is definitive. That's problematic. So for you just to assume that that's what the Greeks thought, you have no proof to back that up. You're just claiming that. You're just saying that. Therefore, are we supposed to just believe that?
That's the first vowel that you hear babies express. I know many of our many fathers like myself, when you heard your child say da da, oh, look, that's saying dad.
Yeah,
But
dad.
actually, that is part of what? The very first vowel you hear them pronouncing. That's the first sound you hear them say. Ah. You don't see them say ooh, oh, e.
So what do babies have to do with grown individuals? He's comparing babies to grown-ups. You're assuming that if that is true, let's just entertain the idea that Hebrew, all of it was just all sounds. You mean to tell me that it didn't advance? It didn't evolve? It didn't improve? We just stayed speaking like babies? Where everything is ah, da, ga, ba, ba, da, ba, da. Like there was no advancement?
You see them or hear them saying what? Ah. Right? So let's get an example of how these letters were pronounced. Look at this here. The evolution of Sabine or Saba'an into Ge'ez or Ga'az. So this tells you this is the original pronunciations right here. Right? Ah, ba, ga, da, za, ta'a, ya'a, ka, la, ma, sa, sa'a, ka'a, ra, wa, za, ha, na, sa, ta, fa. Doesn't get any easier than that. So I hope this helps.
What does that have to do with Hebrew? What does that have to do with Hebrew?
Easier than that. So I hope this helps, Jaydon, Israel. I hope this gives you clarity.
No, it didn't. It didn't at all. This is another. No, this did not help at all.
Which I just did. And so this is where when we say, you hear the term Paleo Hebrew, that is getting to the ancient letters, because there were no vowel points. There was no vowel.
See, and he's saying the ancient Hebrew is, he said the ancient Hebrew is Paleo Hebrew. Let's go ahead and rewind that. Let's just get clarity.
We say, you hear the term Paleo Hebrew, that is getting to the ancient letters, because there were no vowel points. There was no vowel letters. And I'll show another source here to show how the vowel letters got introduced.
And to your point, that's what I, coming out of Christianity, had to wrestle with myself, because I was taught that the modern day Hebrew was the ancient Hebrew, and that's the confusion that if we would have went further into the chat, that's the confusion that they inserted in there to hide the identity of the true Hebrew Israelites.
Yeah. But think about it. Just the video you played with that rabbi was Shapiro or whatever. He said they sat down to create a language because nations need languages.
In
Genesis chapter 10 validates that.
Exactly.
You cannot say you are a nation. You are a nation without a language. All right. And that's been the problem with our community, because they know this. So they know that as we start understanding and start getting back to the original, that start removing them out of the equation.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
Because now we are getting back to the language of Judah.
And I don't have the video. I do have it somewhere, but I had to pull it up. Probably had it set before we had to reset himself. When the rabbi that visit the I think it was the Limbo tribe, or was it the Igbo tribe, when he asked him that question. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Oh yeah, Shapiro, when he asked them, you notice that Shapiro is a popular name, right?
Yeah, that's another Shapiro
among them, but his name is Shapiro as well. You pulling that up, or?
I don't have it.
Okay, so family, let me show you another source. I know, because I got to give receipts, and I'm going to show you this source, and I'm going to show you another source to prove to you that the ancient language only had an ah sound. It only had an ah sound.
He has not proven that. We're speaking about Hebrew, and he showed whatever that source was. That did not prove the ancient, quote unquote, ancient Hebrew, the Paleo Hebrew, was all ah sound. He conflated two languages. He's conflating his sources. He's conflating his argument to try to prove that ancient Hebrew only had the ah sound.
And it ties to or connects to why the Messiah said, not one jot, that's the Greek transliteration, not one jot or one tittle by any means be removed from what? Any of the text. And he's referring to the law and the prophets.
And that's red.
He says text. One jot, the Greek word is iota, which means, which is their 8th letter in the Greek, but it's the 10th letter that it comes from, which is the yod in ancient Hebrew. Right? And then when we get to tittle, right? Kureyah, which comes from the primitive word within it, kur or kuras, it means hair or horns. So Christ is saying, don't even remove the hairs. Don't even touch a single letter, because the ancient letters looked like they had hairs and horns. Because the Messiah made it clear, when you understand it from a Hebraic lens, you change one letter, you could change the whole trajectory of the text. you change the whole trajectory of the text.
Yeah, that's pretty much true. I rock with most of what he's saying. That is true. The jot, yes, the jot in Hebrew is the yod, which is the 10th letter, and a tittle is like a crown marking, or I should say better yet, like extremity, like a point or a horn. So yeah, he is exactly right when it comes to that. It's an extremity, a horn. It's the difference between Hebrew letters. So that is true. I'll give you an example. The letter chet and hey, they look alike, but they're different. The difference between the chet and the difference between the hey is a tittle. But to add cursive to it, to flex it, to make it fancy, ain't nothing wrong with that. I don't see nothing wrong with that. You're not changing the letter. You're just making it look fancy. You flex it with it, but you're not changing the letter. So if you want to add some decoration to the hey or add some decoration to the chet, I don't see nothing wrong with that. As long as a hey stays a hey and a hate stays a hate, then you're all good. But to try to say that, I don't know what he's exactly bringing this argument. I don't know what he's trying to say. Is he trying to say that making the Aramaic Hebrew or making the Aramaic square script, aka biblical Hebrew, making that look more fancy is a violation? That is not a violation. You're not changing the letter. You're just making it look more pretty. That's it. It's nothing to see here. But I don't know exactly what it is he is saying. I'm just giving my insight on that.
Hey, my brother, someone knocking at my door. No, my wife got it. I thought someone, but I had to get it because my office is right here by the door. Let me see here. All right. All right, let me get the door. Hey, family, hold on. Hey,
Go right ahead.
Let me
I'll
run and
go back to the
door
screen.
Hold on, real quick.
Let me get back to it, because what he was saying is correct. The reason we're doing this is if we don't ask and we don't seek and we don't knock, we just sit down and believe what we've been told. And that's been the problem with us. And that's why we've been lost for so long. We've been told a lot of things that wasn't true. And we've been told a lot of things that was intentionally told to us so we would not find out who we really are in the Most High. So I'm going to continue on this pretty much until Pastor come back, what we was talking about with the why the text was tampered with. And if you can't hear, let me know.
Close quote. The King James Version.
So I'm gonna stop right there. I think I got blocked some time in that video, but they did not address specific questions that I had in the chat. Let me go ahead and bring it up. I was in the chat. They did address me each one time. The introduction, they did not give me an introduction, which was weird. I mean, knowing that Berean Scholar invited me to come on the platform, he invited me to come on the live stream. He said, "Oh, I know who that is," but did not admit to the fact that I was invited. So I was invited to that platform. I was invited to watch that lesson. And for my opinion, I was invited because Berean Scholar, he wanted to give me some edification. I think when he was on the Shabbat service, when he joined us on Shabbat service the day before that live stream that I just showed, I think he just wanted to prove to me that the Hebrew that I was speaking was flawed. And when I joined that live stream and saw their lesson, I was not convinced. I was not convinced. They did not prove that biblical Hebrew is flawed. They made assumptions. They made conflations. And they made erroneous statements. They made mistakes. They said a lot of things that were incorrect. And they did not address my question. I know that tonight, this is a sensitive topic. Why? Because in our community, we have a lot of respect for Pastor Kelly Richardson from We Woke Now. He has done a lot of good things for sure. And I'm not going to take away anything from him and from his work. However, when you say that biblical Hebrew is flawed, I have to speak on it. I have to speak on it, even if it may bother you. Even you as the listener, if it bothers you that I'm saying that Pastor Kelly Richardson and Berean Scholar are wrong, fam, I gotta be honest though. As a preacher, as a moray, as a teacher, I have to speak the truth. And for them to definitively say that biblical Hebrew is flawed, that it's modern Hebrew, that it's Yiddish, that it's from the Ish community, for them to teach that, to say that, and to definitively say that, I have to defend biblical Hebrew. I have to defend those who speak biblical Hebrew. There are a lot in our community. There are a lot of brews within our community that speak biblical Hebrew. The Hebrew that is spoken by those in Demona are speaking, they know biblical Hebrew. They know biblical Hebrew. They may speak modern Hebrew, to be honest. They may speak because they are in Israel, so they might speak it, but they are familiar with biblical Hebrew. There are many in our community that read and speak and write biblical Hebrew. I'm defending everybody who speaks, reads, and writes biblical Hebrew. For them to claim that it's flawed, I gotta say something. Now, let me go ahead and share my screen. Let me share my screen, family. Give me a second. Let me pull it up. This is a video with, I might have to do a part 2 to this. I might have to do a part 2, or I might just stretch it out longer. It just depends on how I'm feeling. Because I could tell in the chat it's bothering some of you guys. And hey, I can understand, because Pastor Kelly Richardson, I got a lot of respect for him. I still do, fam. Like, don't take my passion out of context. But when you're making claims that are that bold and that are that wrong, I got to say something. I'm defending all those who speak biblical Hebrew. That's the cool part, family. You don't have to agree with me. We can agree to disagree. You can agree with their lesson. If you prefer Lashawan Kudash, aka Lashan Kudash, where basically all the Hebrew letters all say ah. The Lashawan Kudash, all the letters say ah, except for the I, except for the ayin. But with biblical, with according to Kelly Richardson, Pastor Kelly Richardson, with ancient Hebrew, all the letters make the ah sound, which is the Paleo Hebrew, the ancient Hebrew. If you prefer that, do your thing. But just don't go out of your way and say that biblical Hebrew is wrong. Don't go out of your way and teach to all of our community that biblical Hebrew is flawed. Just speak the Hebrew that you prefer and leave the Hebrew that I prefer alone. Speak the Hebrew that you prefer and leave the Hebrew that we prefer alone. Just leave us alone. Stop misinforming the people. Now, let me go ahead and share my screen. Do I have it up? Is this it? No, I don't think I shared it. Let me see. Let me put it up on there. I thought I had it. Try this again. Let's go share. Maybe I got to share it as a video. Let's see. Or let me just try this. Let's go ahead and let's pull this up. Maybe I'm not putting it up right. Let's see. Maybe I'm not doing it right. Open with. Maybe I can try to share it as a video. Let's see. Video. Let's see what's going on. What file do I have this saved? Okay, maybe if I save it under a different. Let's see. Do I have to save it? Oh, I probably have to translate. Okay. Oh man, it's a different file. Let's see if I can save it as a different file. Let's see. I'm sorry, family. Thanks for bearing with me. I'm trying to share the screen where I had the chat. I'm in the chat. They took down their chat replay, so you couldn't read my comments, my questions. So what I'm gonna have to do, I might have to bring that at another time. I'm gonna try again and see if I can get it up. Let's see. I'm having a hard time with it, fam. I'm having a hard time. Wow. Maybe I can try. It's a lot of work. It might cause issues. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to read the question. Well, you know what? Nah, I'd rather show this. I might even do this another time, but I'll go ahead and show some sources. I'll go from there. Let me go ahead and show some sources. Let's go to. I'm having trouble with the screen. Okay. This article is from Britannica. This is from Britannica. Let me go ahead and share this. Now let me show some sources of mine, because I did make some claims. You guys are hearing me making claims, defending biblical Hebrew. I'm going to read the last 2 paragraphs. I don't know why I'm having problems with this. Why are we not sharing? Let me do this again. I'm having trouble sharing my screen, fam. I don't know what's going on. Let me see. Let me go ahead and put it up. Let me try it one more time. I might have to read it, but I'd rather show it. That way we all see it. Let's go share screen. Yeah, and it's not coming on screen. I'm not share. I'm not going to be able to share. Wow. Wow. I apologize, family. I don't know what's going on. For whatever reason, I'm not able to share. Oh, here we go. Here we go. It's loading now. Thank you for being patient with me. With that said, I'm gonna go ahead and try to put up the video one more time. Let's see if I can get up the video with the comments, with the video with them avoiding my questions. Let's see. Let's try. I'm actually trying to upload it off screen right now. I'm trying to re-download it, family. Let me export it as an MP4. Maybe I'll get it to work. All right, when it's doing that, let me go ahead and read the article. I'll read the last two paragraphs. This is from Hebrew language. Let me scroll down. Hopefully I'm able to get that video with where I'm leaving the comments and where I can show you that they avoided my questions. Let's see what the last two. Yes, yes, here we go. Okay. I'm gonna try this. Let's see if this works. Let's go to shares. Let me try to share the screen. Actually, let me go to, yeah, here we go. Let's try. Let's see. Open with, oh, got it. Got him. Got him. Okay. Okay. So here we go. Let me rewind the video back. Let me go ahead and play the video, then I'll bring out the sources. Let's go. Let's get it. Let's go share screen. Here we go. Thank you, family, for being patient with me. I had to re-download the video off screen. I had to convert it into an MP4 file. So thank you. Thank you for your patience. And you have the right to your opinion. Medhain Alim. Shalom, shalom to you. And yes, I'm saying shalom, and I'm not changing that. Sometimes I do say shalom, just colloquially. That way we don't agree to disagree, but I prefer to say shalom. But I'm not going to argue or fight over that. What I will defend is anybody that says biblical Hebrew is Yiddish, that it's modern Hebrew, that it's incorrect, that it's made up by the Ish community, that I will defend. I will debunk that lie. Biblical Hebrew was not made up by them. So if you have the right to your opinion, just don't go out of your way and say that I'm wrong. Don't go out of your way to say that us brews that speak the biblical Hebrew, that write the biblical Hebrew, that read the biblical Hebrew are wrong. Don't go out of your way and create a presentation that deceives the people. You ain't got to lie. Now, let me go ahead and share the chat right here. Here's the chat box. They removed the chat. I don't know why, but I didn't remove this. I recorded it just in case. So right here, I'm in the chat. Let me go ahead and play it. See if you guys can see it. Yeah, you guys, yeah, it's kind of small, but that's the biggest I got it. I'm right there, as you can see. Shalom, fam. Shalom, fam. I greet the chat. I'm right here. By the way, I was invited. I was invited by Berean Scholar the day before. The day before, he was on our Shabbat daytime service. He gave a testimony, a good testimony. He gave me good energy. And he invited all of us to join this video. So I joined this video. I was invited. He didn't give me any introduction, which was strange. Pastor Kelly Richardson, I reached out to him. We were scheduling a meeting. We were scheduling an interview. He never got back to me. He told me to hit him back. I hit him back twice. He never got back to me. Let's continue. As you see, I'm in the chat. I say, 1, I can hear. I'm saying shalom. See, look, good energy, fam. I'm not being messy. To the, I believe it's the moderator. I say, well, right here, Berean Scholar. Thanks, King, for joining us yesterday for Shabbat service. You guys see the receipt right here. Hopefully you can blow up your screen or something you can see a little closer, but this is the best I can do. I say to Berean Scholar, this is Berean Scholar's channel. I say, thanks, King, for joining us yesterday for Shabbat service. And this individual right here, I said, shalom. See, I'm bringing good energy. I'm not being weird, even though I am weird. But I wasn't being messy. That's Ima Rita D right here. Ima Rita D, she was the speaker of the hour. She preached on the Shabbat service that I'm talking about. The day before this live stream, she was the speaker. She was the preacher, and I presided over the service. So Ima Rita D was a witness that Berean Scholar invited all of us. In fact, Ima Rita D also sent me a link to join this live stream. I'm just giving context, fam. Giving context. See, shalom, Pastor Kelly. Am I trolling, fam? Am I trolling? So far, am I trolling? Let's continue. Right here, I say, as an Israelite, will all honesty, both the Septuagint and the Masoretic texts have mistakes. Facts. The reason why I said that is because they were showing sources trying to say that the Masoretic text is flawed, blase, blase. Now, the Masoretic text does have problems. It does. It came much later than the Septuagint. However, the Septuagint has problems as well. We do not have an original copy of the scriptures. The Septuagint is a copy, is a Greek copy from the original Hebrew, from the Hebrew. They both have problems. And also, this person responded back, that's why you have to take the language back to its original language. I said, yes, we have to do many methodologies to arrive to the conclusions. The square Hebrew with the nekudot is tov. Tov means good. The biblical Hebrew, I said it twice. Right here, I said, the issue with Lashuwan Kodash is how do you know the difference between a noun and a verb? If I say Masha, how do you know if I'm saying a proper noun or a verb? Talk to me, fam. Talk to me. If I say Masha, how do you know if I'm saying a proper noun or a verb? Right on. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for that confirmation. And I came in with good energy because I was invited. I was invited here. Why would I come weird to something I was invited to? Thank you. All right. Let's continue. I said, right on, Pastor Kelly. How do we know the difference between a noun and verb? We would have communication problems. That's what I said. We would have communication problems. It's not long. I only recorded 3 minutes and 17 seconds of it. I'm already a minute and 4 seconds in. Hebrew square scripts with nekudot is not Yiddish or European. Facts. That's what I said. Hebrew square scripts or Aramaic square script to be all the way 100. Aramaic square scripts with nekudot is not Yiddish or European. It was around before they were speaking Yiddish. The Masoretic text was written before the 11th century. Facts. They were talking about the Leningrad Codex. They quoted the Leningrad Codex to try to prove that Masoretic Hebrew was made up in the 10th century because that was the first codified Masoretic text. I ain't got to lie to kick it. No, I'm from the Bay. I'm from the Bay. That's my brother right there, Brent James. Nah, King. I'm from the Bay. We different. Bay and LA, we different. Yeah, we both West Coast, but SoCal, NorCal different. But shout out to LA. When I was down there, my wife and I, we found out it never rains in Southern California. and we stayed at Hotel California. It was such a lovely place. Oh, and I forgot. Yay area. I had to do that. Okay. The Masoretic points allow us to communicate. This is what I'm saying. The Masoretic points allow us to communicate. Different vowels allow us to know the difference between a noun, adjective, and verbs. I respond back to Ima Rita D. Shalom, Ima Rita D. Thank you for preaching that powerful message yesterday during Shabbat service. Ima Rita D is a witness that Berean Scholar invited us to this live stream. Ima Rita D responds back, Shalom at Jaydon, Israel. It was an honor. All praises, all glory, all kavod to our great King. If you missed that message, if you missed last week's Shabbat service, shame on you. You missed out, fam. I said, Masoretic points, nekudot, helps us. They help us. They are like training wheels for reading Hebrew. Ancient Hebrew causes confusion. For example, if I say Adam, here we go. Here's the question. Here is the question. Those in the cheap seats, listen up. Ancient Hebrew causes confusion. For example, if I say Adam, how do I know? If I say Adam, how do I know with context with what Adam means? Somebody in the chat, please answer this. Help me, please. Help me, please. As Eddie Murphy would say, Eddie Professor, help me, please. Help me, please. How do I know? I'm going to read that again. I'm going to give you some time to answer this. Ancient Hebrew causes confusion. For example, if I say Adam, how do I know with context with what Adam means? Somebody help me. Help me, please. I need some clarification. If I say Adam, Aleph, Dalet, Mem, Aleph, Dalet, Mem, Aleph, Dalet, Mem, what am I really saying? The nekudot gives clarity on Aleph, Dalet, Mem. And then Carol answers, the moderator right here, says, based on the definition of the ancient Hebrew letters at Jaydon, Israel. That did not answer my question. I clearly know what they're saying, but this does not answer my question. And I respond back, how? How? they say, how? Because each letter has a definition. I'm aware of that. That is facts. Each letter has multiple meanings. But that does not answer my question. You answered another question that I did not ask. My question was, if I say Adam, how do we know what we're saying? If I say Adam, I'm going to go back to the question. If I say Adam, how do I know with context with what Adam means? I know exactly what they're saying. Respectfully. I said Adam is confusing in ancient Hebrew. It's confusing. If I say Aleph, Dalet, Mem, if I say Aleph, Dalet, Mem, and I see the Nekudot, I can see exactly what I'm saying. Like I said, the Nekudot give clarity. They're like training wheels. Hebrew had more than just one vowel sound. It had more than just the ah sound. If not, we would have communication problems and delays. We would have confusion and delay. And I'll respond back. And I'll also say right here, technically, our ancestors and our people, black people, are Israeli. That's right. Did you know that, family? Technically, in the Tanakh, our ancestors, the Israelites who were African, melanated, black, colloquially speaking, in the Tanakh, the Old Testament, were known as Israeli. That's right. Oh, I got you. Oh, I got you, YBG. I'm not making this up. I got you. Stay tuned. We're real quick. I got you. All honor, all honor. Hey, I'll be glad to. Technically, we are Israeli. Let's go. Let's go. Where we going? Okay, we're going here. Let's go. Biblical Hebrew is Afro-Asiatic. You know that's right. At this person right here, at Carol, shalom to you. I said that's correct. When they said, I'm referring to them when they said that one letter has different definitions or different meanings. I agree to that. I know exactly what they said, but they did not answer my question. They tried to answer my question with another answer that had nothing to do with my question. Now, let's continue. Right here, I got you, YBG. Check this out. Check this out. Before I do that, it says, at Jaydon Israel, they respond back to me. All letters have meanings, so there's no confusion in it. I agree. Facts. I agree, but that's not what I'm asking. Only people who want to confuse it. I agree, but that's not what I'm asking. I'm asking about the word Adam. If I say Adam, what am I talking about? Am I talking about a noun, a verb, an adjective? What am I saying? Now, at Daryl, I respond back to Daryl, or I respond to Daryl. I say, Israeli is in the Bible, and I show in Hebrew, in Be Ivrit. I'm flexing in Hebrew. Ha Yisraeli. Ha Yisraeli. Ha Yisraeli. 2 Samuel 17:25. Say the Israelite. Ha Yisraeli. Samuel, turn to 2 Samuel 17:25, where it says, say the Israelite. In Hebrew, it says, Ha Yisraeli, which means the Israelite. So this Israelite was called in Hebrew, not an Israelite. This Israelite was called Ha Yisraeli. 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 Israeli. Technically, we as Israelites As black people, we are Israeli. Israeli just means somebody of Israel. A descendant of Israel, an Israelite. The I part is English. The E part is Hebrew. Yisraeli is Hebrew. What source? 2 Samuel 17:25. I'm gonna go ahead and prove. I'll go ahead and read it in Hebrew. That way we all see it. But let's go ahead and finish this video. I don't got to make this up. I ain't got a lot to kick it. But right here, I show right here. And they don't address this. See, right here, highlighted in the Hebrew highlighter. Israeli is in 2 Samuel 17:25. Now, the English translators, they may write Israelite. But what the Hebrew says, what our language says, is Ha Yisraeli, the Yisraeli, the Israeli. And I respond back to pure repentance. 2 Samuel 17, I meant to say 25, Ha Yisraeli. And then they tried to answer, they said, at Jaydon Israel, Adam means red, masculine. And then let me go ahead and go up a little bit more. Right here, I say, well, they say at Jaydon Israel, Adam, man. And then I say right here, at Carol, if I say Adam in Hebrew, Aleph, Dalet, Mem, they are a plethora of different meanings. For example, Adam means, according to ancient Hebrew, according to their Hebrew, Adam would mean, I will be silent. It would also mean man. It will also mean person. It would also mean ruby. It would also mean red. So with those different definitions, when I say Adam in biblical Hebrew, let me repeat that. So for clarification, when I say Adam in ancient Hebrew, Lashon Kodash, am I saying Adam, which means I will be silent? Am I saying man? Am I saying person? Am I saying ruby? Am I saying red? What am I saying? If I say Adam in ancient Hebrew, Lashon Kodash, Paleo Hebrew, Lashon Kodash, am I saying I will be silent? Am I saying man? Am I saying person? Am I saying ruby? Am I saying red? Am I saying to make red? What the heck am I saying? That's a lot of words to choose from. Goodness gracious. Learn biblical Hebrew. Fam, it's our language. Take it back. Biblical Hebrew is Tov. It's all good. It's not what they're saying it is. Biblical Hebrew is not Yiddish. It's not modern Hebrew. Biblical Hebrew is biblical Hebrew. Stop dissing biblical Hebrew when you have no definitive proof to do so. Just assumptions and assertions and conjecture and inferences, but no solid definitive proof. Just hearsay. All you have is hearsay. Hearsay is not evidence. You got to do better than that. And then right here, I respond back to pure repentance. I say, thanks for hearing me out, fam. Oh no, before I said that, they said before that at Jaydon Israel, you are using Yiddish letters. You see that? You see that, family? You see that? This person right here, Carol, is accusing me by saying, they said to me, you are using Yiddish letters and not ancient Hebrew letters. Yiddish is not Hebrew, and you will not have the same meaning. Thus, your confusion. They're wrong, respectfully. This is completely wrong. Biblical Hebrew is not Yiddish. And I respond back to pure repentance. Thanks for hearing me out, fam. And then Carol says, listen to We Woke Now at Jaydon Israel. I've been listening the whole time. That's why I'm bringing up these questions, because I've been listening. I say right here, well, they say again, listen. I guess they're getting upset. Capital L, capital I, capital S, capital T, capital E, capital N. Listen, I say, I just want to give clarity that biblical Hebrew is African. You know that's right. It's our language. It ain't no Yiddish. Ain't no German. Stop with the cap. Stop with the lies. Stop with the madness, I tell you. And they said, yes, it is, at Jaydon Israel. You are not listening. He's explaining this to you now. I'm listening quite fine. I'm listening. And I said, how? I would like someone to address my question. Yeah, nobody addressed my question. The Adam question. Nobody addressed it. They're saying Carol says biblical Hebrew is not ancient Hebrew. Biblical Hebrew was invented by the Germans. Yiddish, German, Hebrew. And I responded to Carol, if I say Adam in Hebrew, Aleph, Dalet, Mem, there are a plethora of different meanings. For example, I will be silent, man, person, ruby, red, to make red. Which one am I talking about? If I say Adam in Lashon Kodash, if I say Adam in Lashon Kodash, if I say Adam in quote unquote ancient Hebrew, what is the meaning? Out of all these meanings, which one is it? I have to sit here and try to figure it out. That would take forever. That would cause confusion. That would cause a delay. And I respond back to Carol. Biblical Hebrew was penned by the Masoretes around 600s AD. Facts. Around 600 AD, the Masoretes penned down. Notice I said penned down. An older tradition of what we have as biblical Hebrew, the vowels, the nekudot. And they said, if you are not going to, Carol says, if you are not going to listen to the lesson, that's answering your questions. They did not answer my questions. They avoided my questions. Then you will be blocked from disrupting the chat. How am I disrupting the chat? I'm asking questions. They're honest questions. They're not trolling questions. They're serious questions. Why? Because our people, a lot of our people, Israelites, speak biblical Hebrew. So for you to say that biblical Hebrew is flawed, I have to defend the truth, that your assertions, that your assumptions are wrong. Shalom, shalom to positive fives. Shalom to positive fives. It's good to see you. It's good to see you, sis. This live stream is a sensitive one, but I'm defending something that's important, and that's language. I got to defend language. As a moray, I got to defend what I got to stand up for, and that is language. How are we going to get things done if we're not properly communicating? We have to bring clarity. I'm here to bring objectivity, to bring another point of view. The video that I'm referencing, they're saying that biblical Hebrew, which is the biblical Hebrew that you hear me read, that you hear me speak, that you hear me, that I write in as well, and that I sing in. They're saying it's Yiddish, it's German, it's from the Ish, it's modern Hebrew, and what the facts say is that they're wrong. Biblical Hebrew is none of those things. Biblical Hebrew is Afro-Asiatic. It's our language. Thank you for joining us, Positive Vibes. Yeah, Lashon Kodash, you can't properly have a conversation. Your sentences have to be extremely short. Because with everything sounding like an ah, how do I know what you're talking about? Are you talking about a noun, a verb, an adjective, a preposition? How do I know? The vowel pointings, the nekudot that you see in the biblical Hebrew, they give us clarity. They're like training wheels for Hebrew readers. And anybody interested, if you like to learn Hebrew, biblical Hebrew, the right way, just go below the video and sign up for the Hebrew course. I recommend enrolling into the bundle. Get the bundle, that way you save money. That's right. I'm looking forward to teaching biblical Hebrew, family. I'm looking forward to sharing our language. All praises to our great King. Let's go ahead and finish this out. It's almost done. I said, I'm giving clarity so we can be objective, fam. And then they said right here, oops, my bad. Let me go back a little bit. Right here it says, Carol says, who's the moderator? Carol's the moderator. They said, I just said that to him at We Woke Now. He's blocked now. So I'm blocked. I'm blocked. I'm blocked. And I had more receipts, but I'm blocked. I didn't realize I was blocked. But I said, Moses used the Proto-Sinaitic, which was partially from Kemet, the Medunetza. Proto-Sinaitic pictographic Hebrew partially comes from Kemet, Egypt, the Medunetza, the hieroglyphics. Ancient Hebrew. Well, I meant to say pictographic Hebrew. There's talking about Paleo Hebrew, so my correction. Pictographic Hebrew, Proto-Sinaitic Hebrew partially comes from Egypt. And I'm talking about the scripts. I'm not talking about the language. I'm talking about the scripts. And I even say, this is all out of love, fam. Right here. This is all out of love, fam. This is all out of love, fam. As Israelites, we should listen to each other and respectfully agree to disagree. As you can see, I did not troll this video. I did not troll Pastor Kelly. I did not troll Berean Scholar. I gave another perspective. Positive eyes. Who are you referring to? You say you sound. Are you talking about me or somebody in the chat? You say you sound like a Neanderthal. What you mean by that? Wow. I mean, if that's that me, I'm sorry. I mean, I got so much respect for you, positive vibes. I didn't mean to, come at you like that, sis. I didn't say anything, to my knowledge, against you. Maybe this is not even towards me. Maybe this is towards somebody else. So I'm just getting clarity. I get called insults all the time. So. Oh, okay. All right. Cool. All right. Thank you for that. I got to give an ovation. Yeah, for sure. I was just going to take that on the chin. I got so much appreciation for all the love and support you showed this. I just took that on the chin. But yeah, family, that's that video. Now I'm going to go ahead and close out by showing these sources real quick, further proving that biblical Hebrew that many in our community are aware of is not Yiddish. It's not modern Hebrew. It's not fake. There's nothing wrong with it. Let me go ahead and show this screen. This is a long one. I was going to open the panel, but this is a special one. This is exclusive. You said don't forget to explain that though. Which you mean explain? What you mean, YBG? I've been, I think I've been explaining. I've been giving my position. I'm not saying you have to believe it, but I'm not going to just go out of my way and say you're wrong. But I will defend it. I will defend biblical Hebrew if somebody else says it is definitively. I'm sharing the video right now. It's taking me a while. I don't know why it's not. Oh, here we go, fam. Here we go. Let's read this paragraph. Modern Hebrew based on the biblical Hebrew. See, modern Hebrew is based on the biblical Hebrew, not the other way around. Biblical Hebrew is not based on modern Hebrew. Keep that in mind. We're not going to conflate over here. Contains many innovations designed to meet modern needs. It is the only colloquial speech based on a written language. Everyday words are derived from existing Hebrew phrasing. Blase, blase, blase. or borrowed from contemporary languages. Blase, blase. A handful of words are repurposed from biblical expressions. The pronunciation is a modification of that used by the Sephardic, Hispano-Portuguese Jews rather than that of the Ashkenazic Eastern European Jews. Oh, fascinating. The old guttural consonants are not clearly distinguished except by Palestinian speakers or are lost. The syntax is based on that of the Mishnah. Characteristic of Hebrew of all stages is the use of word roots consisting usually of 3 consonants, in which vowels and other consonants are added to derive words of different parts of speech and meaning. Last paragraph I want to read. The language is written from right to left in a North Semitic script of 22 letters. See Hebrew alphabet. Only consonants were written in the language's earliest period. Facts. That's facts. I'm not denying that. No denying. And some of those consonants were later employed to represent long vowels as well. In the 7th century CE, the Masoretes of Tiberias introduced into the writing system diacritical marks, which represented short vowels and other phonological information. Keep that in mind. In the 7th century, the Masoretes of Tiberias introduced the diacritic marks, the vowel points, the dots, the nekudot. This right here is not Yiddish or modern Hebrew. Keep that in mind. Keep this in mind. Modern Hebrew is based on the biblical languages, on the biblical language, not the other way around. Biblical Hebrew is not based on modern Hebrew. That is the mistake they made. Okay, let's get to the next source. Oh, I'm highlighting this. Appreciate that. I was in the camps in the 90s when they made that stuff up. Big facts. Appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you for bringing that out. Positive vibes. You always bringing positive vibes and bringing that edification. We appreciate it. Now we're going to go to Yiddish. Let's go to Yiddish. Let me go off screen. Okay, so Yiddish, I'm going to read the first 2 paragraphs. Right here, fam. Yiddish language. One of the many Germanic languages that form a branch of the Indo-European language family. Yiddish is the language of the Ashkenazim, Central and Eastern European Jews, and their descendants. Written in the Hebrew alphabet, it became one of the world's most widespread languages, appearing in most countries with a Jewish population by the 19th century. Along with Hebrew and Aramaic, it is one of the 3 major literary languages of Jewish history. The earliest date, check this out, listen up, family. The earliest date Yiddish documents are from the 12th century CE. I'm highlighting that, Hebrew highlighter. Remember, from the last article, when was Masoretic Hebrew written? That's right, the 7th century. Masoretic Hebrew, which is the Masoretic text Hebrew that we see on Bible Hub and Blue Letter Bible, predates Yiddish. We don't got a lot to kick it. These sources are from Britannica. I like Britannica because they are objective and professional and scholastic. I'm not using no fly-by-night source over here. But scholars have dated the origin of the language to the 9th century. So even if we go back to the 9th century, Masoretic Hebrew, aka Biblical Hebrew, still predates Yiddish. when the Ashkenazim emerged as a unique cultural entity in Central Europe. Yiddish first arose through an intricate fusion of two linguistic stocks, a Semitic component containing post-classical Hebrew and Aramaic that the first settlers brought with them to Europe from the Middle East, and a grammatically and lexically more potent Germanic component gleaned from a number of High German and Middle German dialects. In addition, a sprinkling of words from Romance languages also seems to have appeared in Yiddish from early on. From its birthplace on German-speaking soil, Yiddish spread to nearly all of Eastern Europe, which the language acquired a Slavic component. So we already know from this article, Yiddish came after Biblical Hebrew. It came after the Masoretic Hebrew. Let's see if I got to show any more. I think I probably got like one more. Oh, right here. This is important. I'm going to read the 4th paragraph. This will be my last source. Right here. This is from Britannica as well, Khazar, the Khazarian Empire. Let's go. Although basically Turkic, the Khazar state bore little resemblance to the other Turkic empires of Central Eurasia. It was headed by a secluded supreme ruler of semi-religious character called a Khagan, who wielded little real power, and by tribal chieftains, even known as a beg. The state's military organization also seems to have lacked the forcefulness of those of the greater Turkic Mongol empires. The Khazars seem to have been more inclined to a sedentary way of life, building towns and fortresses, tilling the soil and planting gardens and vineyards. Trade and the collection of tribute were major sources of income. Textual witnesses dating from the 9th and 10th centuries claim the Khazars adopted Judaism in the 8th century. These texts are not without problems, however, and lack of archaeological and other physical evidence indicating a mass conversion has called both the extent and historicity of this conversion into doubt. Now, if you're wondering what this means, let me go ahead and translate that. Thank you, Imabithia. Thank you. Please hit the like button. We appreciate that. Now, let me go ahead and get some clarity to what this means. In other words, some historical texts from the 9th and 10th centuries, written 1 to 200 years after the events they describe, claim that the Khazars, a Turkic people who had a kingdom in what is now southern Russia and parts of Eastern Europe, adopted Judaism in the 8th century. However, historians caution that these texts have problems. Check it. They might be biased, inaccurate, or based on heresy or hearsay, rather than eyewitness accounts. They don't match well with archaeological evidence. In fact, there is no physical evidence like artifacts, inscriptions, or widespread Yehudi burial sites that proves the Khazars converted on a large scale. Because of this, the extent, how many actually converted, and even the historicity, whether it truly happened, of the Khazar conversion are debated by scholars. In short, there are old written claims that the Khazars became Yehudi or Jewish in the 8th centuries, but the sources are questionable, and there's no solid physical evidence. So historians are not sure if it really happened or how widespread it was. Check this out. If you missed all of that, check this out. Even if they did convert in the 8th century, the Hebrew of the Masoretes in Tiberias of the 7th century predates the alleged conversion. I repeat, even if the Khazars did convert, even if that's true, scholars are saying we don't know if that is or not. There's no physical evidence of that proof. If they really did convert in the 8th century, the Hebrew of the Masoretes in Tiberias of the 7th century predates the alleged conversion. The Masoretic Hebrew is older than their alleged conversion. The Masoretes did not create the vowel sounds out of the blue. Instead, they preserved and recorded the traditional vowel pronunciations that had been passed down orally for centuries. Check it. Ancient Hebrew was originally written using only consonants. No vowel pointings were written down. That is facts. This was common in many Semitic languages. Facts. The vowel sounds were known and spoken by Yehudi communities, but were not written in the early texts. People learned the correct pronunciation by listening and oral tradition. Around the 6th to 10th century CE, but the earliest the 6th. And Britannica says the 7th. So we go with the 6th or the 7th. Either way you go. Biblical Hebrew, Masoretic Hebrew is older than Yiddish. Biblical Hebrew, Masoretic Hebrew is older than modern Hebrew. Around the 6th to 10th century CE, the Masoretes developed the Nakud system, small dots and marks placed around the consonants to indicate vowel sounds and pronunciation clearly in the written text. This system was meant to preserve the traditional way Hebrew was pronounced and ensure that future generations could read and chant the scriptures correctly. So the Masoretes did not invent new vowel sounds. They formalized and documented existing oral traditions into a written system to protect the pronunciation from being lost or changed over time. Conclusion: Biblical Hebrew is not Yiddish. Biblical Hebrew is not modern Hebrew. Want to learn biblical Hebrew the right way? I got you. I got you, fam. Just go down in the description and enroll now. Enroll in those Hebrew courses while they are still available. Shalom, shalom to King Keturah. That's my brother right there. Shalom. This video, I had to make a response back to Berean Scholar and Pastor Kelly Richardson of We Woke Now. I had to speak on it, family. So that is my position. I'm giving my information. There's a lot more where that came from. And you don't have to believe me. That's the cool part. You don't got to believe me. You don't got to rock with the biblical Hebrew. You don't have to sign up to the biblical Hebrew that's below in the description. It would really bless your studies. It will connect you back to your language. However, you don't have to. You don't have to agree. But if you are interested, family, in learning biblical Hebrew, just go below the video. Sign up enroll now while we still have, while it's open, family, while the opening is there. So that's my position. This video was not out of disrespect. I was passionate. I did have to turn up a little bit out of passion, but I didn't mean to be disrespectful to Pastor Kelly Richardson or to Berean Scholar. But I just wanted to give a defense to biblical Hebrew. I'd like to thank you, family, for joining this chat. I'd like to thank everybody in the chat. I'd like to thank everybody listening online. Let's make sure that we continue to love Yehovah Eloheinu with all of our heart, all of our soul, and with all of our might. I'm Jaydon Israel. Until next time, shalom, fam. But before I go, check this out. Check this out on your way out.